Okay, we're in. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that delay. Just double checking that everything's synced up. I think we're good. Want to say hi in the chat. I see Watch by Design. Curtis, good having you here. ID Klein, Raymond, Justin, Forbin Colossus. That's so cool. Thank you all so much for joining. It's going to be a good laugh. It's a very different selection of watches that we normally see, which is going to make quite the difference. So as I just say hi to you in the chat, I want to first share a shot sent in by Frank. A bit of a different way to start the show. We're looking at a day date. I believe it's white gold. It has a meteorite dial with baguette diamonds. Very different. It's sort of in line with the theme of dress watches, so we'll get to that in a moment. Right. Forbin mentioned a comment saying, moistening my throat with saying me. Kid you not, I do that in a different way. I'll definitely get to that in a second. 121, click Bezels, Julian. I saw Eric BS has already commented 1, as in you can hear me. That's that's good to know, even though the show hasn't started. Turbo T2, all the rest. Thank you so much for joining. If you can, please comment 1 in the chat so I know that you can hear me loud and clear and there's no issues. Okay, I'll say right off the bat that I believe this to be one of the most expensive selections of watches that we're ever going to see on Wristshot Week. This is episode 28, I believe. Thank you, Horror Mirror and Scott and I Heart Sushi and everyone else. That's fantastic. Okay, so this is a really cool day date. And the theme around this, what did I say? What is your definition of the dress watch? That is what we're going to try to cover, try to unpack at least. Let me just get this adjusted. Always show sidebar. Okay, so to begin, it's been a while since we've done one of these. Hey? It's been like 3 weeks or something, daft. And it's good to be back. It's always nice to have a bit of a breather, a bit of a return to form. It's nice to talk again. I haven't spoken about watches for like the last 3 days, so it's a nice way to begin. Okay, thank you, Anthony. So you can hear me fine. It's good. Mark, I think I said hi to you. I'm going to give you a big shout out in a moment. And Kevin, your emails are fantastic. Thank you so much. He emails me individually and says he loves the videos that come out every week, and I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. The Chidge and Rob and Geezer and so many more. If I missed you, apologies. Tag me in the chat. I'll be able to see it easier. Let me hit some water because, of course, as you start the show with a Benadryl in your system, so you get dry mouth. Hay fever has been knocking me out over the last couple of days. So if I do suddenly sneeze, I'll mute myself and not sneeze into the microphone, but you'll know why. All right, so good last video. Thank you, Raymond. Yeah, the last video was about watch brands and them listening to enthusiasts. I'll put that in the corner as a replay. So the theme of this show, let's just first address what I'm drinking. To start, this is a Tamnavulen Speyside Sherry cask. It's a nice whiskey. It's good for the beginner. I think Speyside in general is light enough, easy enough to drink, that it's ideal for the beginner. And the best part is the name Tamnavulen makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, even though you've just started out in this hobby, you know. So I would recommend it. It's really cool. Let me get in on the box. It's nice. I would say it's about 8 years old, not a 10-year-old. It's a bit young, premature, we could say. The sherry cask, there's no knowing how long it stays in the sherry cask. Normally it's normally a 12-year-old, and then ideally it's 10 years in an oak cask and then 2 years in a sherry cask. This feels more like an 8-year-old. At least that's what they specify. Would recommend, though. They're not that expensive if you're based in the Northern Hemisphere. I think importation and all of that is a bit different, but this is what I'm rocking. Okay, let's chat about that in a moment. First off, okay, let me try and get this out of my head for a second before the show starts. We're discussing the theme of dress watches and what do they entail. And I think ID Klein made a good comment the other day, saying that if someone else mentions that the Explorer makes for a good dress watch, then he's going to find a sharp object. Good point. It is open to debate and discussion. Here's a selection of pieces that I have in my humble collection, which I will talk about individually for a sec. Forbin, is that strap on the right a MOD? Yes, it sure is. That is it. Yeah. So the strap that's on the Seamaster, the watch in the middle, is a CWC 73 Bund strap. And it's really cool. It's a mixture of a NATO and a leather fitting in the middle. It's pretty funny that you're dealing with a watch from the 50s, a dive watch from the 50s on a 70s strap. Doesn't make sense, but it works so well. And I'll show you a wrist shot of it in a second. That's what I'm wearing at the moment. But the theme of the dress watch, let me try and run through this quick as possible. There was a great comment left on my Instagram that I've just screen grabbed. Martin mentioned that for me, a dress watch is always on a leather strap. At this stage in our hobby, watches themselves, mechanical watches, aren't nearly as popular as they used to be. I see Bobby Legs joining us, and Blue Shirts, and many more. Get more. Sorry if I'm missing you, and Wilson and Ken, and I'm going to have to try and keep on track while I'm talking. So we see that modern watches like these, mechanical watches, aren't as popular as they used to be. So they are very much a luxury, regardless of the price you're looking at, regardless of where you are in this collecting spectrum. So for anyone to have a mechanical watch on their wrist already is a different tier of watch ownership. The dress watch today has been, over the last, 70 years, the sports watch has made a dent on how the dress watch is seen. We look at, again, the Explorer is a good example, Submariners, all the rest. You can wear any watch with a suit today and it works well. Vintage watches, I think any vintage watch can double as a dress watch today because they look superb, sublime. So in my case, what I've been wearing the most recently are, generally watches on leather straps, and they do fit the bill pretty well. The Lange Big Eye review will be done in the next week. I've got lots of stuff. I'm preparing so much at the moment that we're going to be looking at. There's an Aquaterra video that I'm bringing up next week. Another one on watch size. Does it matter? Just good fun. And then the Big Eye video will be done. Just need to take some images and get some footage. Okay, a few more. Ashley, welcome. Ken Spear, I said hi. Uran-sun, welcome to the show. Bjornar, great having you. And George, watch and pray. Mr. GMT, yeah, it's so fun. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be chatting about all sorts today. Again, I will mention that the show is probably one of the most expensive shows of all. I asked, in the community post, I asked the audience to share what they consider to be dress watches today. And the variety here, I'm thinking that you'll see these watches on leather straps. They're not necessarily going to be dress watches, but funny enough, most of the watches that they shared, or that you shared, should I say, were very much dress watches. And I think we have a record number of Lange and Zonas to celebrate and appreciate. It's insane. I mean, I've mind blow. Everything from triple splits to the cover photo, which we're going to see in a moment, and many more. Okay, let's get this off the screen and jump to the watch that became the cover photo. I reached out to Russell. Anyone wants to know, this is a Fabio Perez Tango painting in the background. I reached out to him and asked him to share this watch with us because, I mean, let's be honest, this pretty much epitomizes the dress watch in its purest form. And it's just glasuta in its finest when you see that end result. I'll mention what the reference is and everything in a moment. Just get back into the chat and say hi to you once more. Rick on Watches, welcome. Philip, Rizab Jones, Roar of the Tiger, Carl Cuba, Koji, it's so good having you all here. All your watches are saved. I think I spent up until about midday today saving, so if I've missed a few of your pieces, apologies. But we don't worry, it'll be carried on over to next week. And of course, not all the watches here are dress watches. We have lots of sports pieces too. Many are carried over from the weeks previously. So yeah, easy to say what is not a dress watch. I agree. I think just as a part of the show, even after the show, in the comments, if you could mention what your definition of the dress watch is. I like the idea of pairing it with a leather strap as being a part of the theme. I wanted to briefly touch on field watches, and I think they ride that line so nicely of being sports watches, dress watches today. Even though they have a serious military application tied to them, I think they also double up as such brilliant all-round, all-going pieces that have great amount of flair. They ride the line very well. Okay, will there be panorise? Yes, there will be, Carl. We have a few radium years, I believe. Okay, Abdul, welcome to the show. Turbo, I think I saw you earlier. Okay, so let's chat about this. This is the Lange 1815 thin honey gold, 175th anniversary, I believe. So they only made like 100, and I think they only made 175 of these, and it came out like mid last year, if I remember right. Russell, as most of us know, Russell is a very eclectic collector in this area. We have some awesome pieces from him. I was sure to request as much as I could from him. And this is one of his recent pickups. And as a watch that just epitomizes Lange, I think it's one of the best I've ever seen. I'm a huge fan of the Saxonia thin, but the 1815 with those numerals, God, it's insane. So I think it's 37 millimeters in diameter. He says while hitting the water, honey gold wears differently to yellow gold. It's almost like if you think of the different qualities of gold, 9 carat, 12, 14, 18 carat, it feels more like a 9 carat, if I could explain it the best. It's a very light colored gold in the finish. And it's just such a beautiful watch, man. I mean, when it comes to dress watches, like, how much further do you need to go in this area? It is just a mind blow. The simplicity is what really defines it. I think it's gorgeous. Junior Johnson, Bud the Stud, many more of you. Luke, welcome from Montana. Uran's son, I think I said hi, and Alex, and yeah, okay, let's get going. Next up, a huge congratulations to our man Mark P in the chat, because as of a couple of hours ago, he took delivery of quite the Grail watch. Now, as far as I know, it's taken him like 6 months of waiting, at least, round about there, and it's a stunning machine. Gen 3 overseas. I would love to know your thoughts, Mark, since you're now here with us. I'd love to know your thoughts about how this watch is. I mean, it's been 6 hours or something. I'd love to know what it's been like over the last 6 hours. What have your initial thoughts been about the piece? I did mention how vibrant the dial is and how in certain lights it's a serious moment. I'm really chuffed for him. I think it made my day today. Just thinking, and Turbo, you've just picked one up too. So just thinking that this is a new step into the horology space for him. This is horology. It's one of the top 3, it's a big player. And now he has, I would say, the most versatile of the 3 watches, which is also incredible. I think it's superb. The fact that you're getting rubber and leather strap on top of it. And I believe this is his only blue dial watch that he now has in the collection. Yeah, Vatican blueness, as I think Forbin says. It's so cool. Anyway, I see Jean-Claude Beaver. Welcome. It's good having you here, sir. And many more that I'm missing. I see a comment from our man Curtis in the chat. I don't know, it was here a second ago. The chat's going so fast. Sorry. I see Thomas joining us. Welcome. I hope you guys have a show next week. I will be off air next week, so that's when Watch Talk with the Punters happens. Yeah, Samurai says, what do you think of the overseas dual time? I love it. That GMT, the Corey Richards edition, is one of my favorites. If I could choose any overseas, it would be that one. Titanium with that awesome like nylon rubber strap and the orange accents, just amazing. They only made a one-off of that watch. Check it out on Google. Corey Richards, Vacheron, GMT. Just say that. It should give you the specs. But it's awesome. And we're chatting about the theme of dress watches. This is such a good way to begin the talk, because this is where we see the natural progression of where the dress watch is today. It's riding the sports elegance feel. Similar. I mean, the 70s really put a spanner in the works when we're talking about this theme, where the integrated bracelet now became its own thing and has since really taken off. A couple of years ago, the overseas Gen 3 was not even looked at, and now you have to have waiting lists, and that's pretty much because the Nautiluses and the Royal Oaks have dried up in many places, and these are it's the last bastion of attainable pieces in this area, which is pretty hilarious, but it's just stunning. Yeah, I gotta say, Mark, huge congratulations. It is just nuts. I see there's so many more of your names. I'm missing you. Please tag me in the chat and I'll be able to see it so much quicker. So Watch by Design, Curtis commented on his thoughts on a dress watch. I'm going to pull next to RJ, completely different selection. We're starting now with RJ. I don't know if I've missed anything else. I think we've covered everything in the first portion of the show. Now, I believe this was a carryover from last week, but in a completely different direction. We're looking at a Grand Seiko SPGX 339, limited edition 800, no gap. And it's an awesome machine. I mean, you talk about work watches. I don't know if this is a quartz or if this is automatic. I think it might be a quartz. Okay, let's see. So watches by design. My parameters: precious metal, white, rose, yellow, gold, or platinum. 2 or 3 hands only, thin, less than 8 millimeters, 35 millimeters to 39 in diameter. Black leather strap, no date. We're going to see a lot of those. I'll also mention, after talking for 14 minutes, that there are a handful of watches here that I have never seen before. They have just been released. The new Calatravas that came up last year, it was at the beginning of this year, I think, with the hobnail bezels and all of that. We're going to see those later on. There's a couple of new pickups. Just amazing things. Again, I'll emphasize, probably one of the most expensive selections of watches. Here I was thinking that we would have, the typical sports watches on leather straps. This is what I would be doing at least, and say, hey, this is my dress watch now. But no, the dress watches really get deep today, and you will see later on. What else did I want to mention? There was something else. I don't know. It'll come back to me. Abdul saying, the only way to bring dress watches back into fashion, make them 100 meters water resistant, add a screw-down crown with rubber hybrid straps. You know what? Not a bad point. I think there was a video that I did a while back discussing the theme of why watches don't have screw-down crowns. Yeah, I did. Can't remember. There were some fantastic comments around it and just why it's not as valid with dress watches, or a lot of these brands don't want to move in that direction because it goes against the grain of what they've always done. And so 121 says the hour hand looks like a 70s tie. It really does. Hey, talk about sword hand or gladius hand to the nth degree. No date on this piece. How amazing is that? There's so many of these divers that I miss. I miss a couple, and this one I definitely haven't seen before. The yellow accents are great. It's a very proficient looking diver. Speaks to Grand Seiko's language, but it's not very typical of what we notice normally. I do like it. I imagine it's probably like 42 mils in size and everything. Again, I should say as a bit of a caveat, it takes about 25 minutes for me to wake up and start presenting. So bear with me, getting the coffee in the system and all of that. Nomos has elongated lugs, no good. That's a watch that we are not featuring, actually, as far as I remember. Dress watch must slip under the cuff. I think it's pretty great that a lot of sports watches today are made thin enough that they can. You don't see that very often. So I think that's a very good point. Very, very good point. Too big for no date, Limey says. I think this watch sits in around 43 mils, maybe even 44. We know that when we move up the diver category in Grand Seiko, they can get pretty huge. Okay, I'm going to carry on next because there's a lot of pieces to cover. So let's get to Alex next. Thank you for that, RJ. This is a selection of his collection. I don't know if this is his entire collection, but he has quite the handful. We can start from left and just carry on around. I've spotlighted a few watches that he sent separately. So there's some good stuff. We've got a Zenithal Primero with the open work set up there. This is a 70s, no idea, 70s Chrono Stop of some kind. A lot of these names will elude me. That looks like a Seiko on the right. Then on the far side, we have a Lange. Scroll down, we have an old school Bolivar. Looks like a Reef Tiger. This is probably one of the cheapest tourbillons that you can find today, if I remember right. A really nice skeletonized Hoya, Tag Hoya. Yeah, it's so difficult running through these collections, trying to be efficient. This could be an AP for all I know. This looks like a Vostok. I'm trying to get my mouse cursor to spin, but of course it's her time of the month. Looks like a Type 20 inspired piece. Don't know the name. A couple of other little bits and pieces. And then we just have a surprise JLC Polaris, I believe. Alpina. A couple of watches from the 70s. We have a Speedy. We have a ETA Tudor. Awesome constellation. It's a date complication is awesome. Looks like we have a Breitling at the top right there and a Mont Blanc compass watch. And then we have what looks to be a sterile dial. I don't know. But let's get to the watches again. There's so many to cover. Some of the watches that he highlighted to focus on. Again, very often I don't save all the names and the descriptions of these pieces because it happens at like 4 a.m. So if I do miss a couple of bits and pieces, apologies. I'm just going to prattle on and talk over myself. There was a mention from Alex, Gerard Perigo. Alex, you're in the chat. Fantastic. Gerard Perigo, thank you. Speed Sonic, thank you. And Globemaster, excellent. Thank you, everyone. That's good. Okay, let's get to some more descriptions of dress watches and see if I can find anything. Is the Ploprof a dress watch? Julian asks. For some of us, it is. I know Eric would probably agree. Eric sent in a very interesting watch that I hope to chat about in a while. The closest that he will ever get to a dress watch, and it's a Rolex, you wouldn't believe. Okay, so let's see. Bjornar, my go-to dress watch at the moment is the blue Vacheron 56. Ooh, that's amazing. That is one of Blue Shirt's favorite watches. I think it's still his grail piece, I believe. Okay, carrying on through. I am, slow as always. Dress watches should be under 41 millimeters. I think 36 to 39, it is. Abdul, good point. In fact, that's the basis of my talk I'm going to put it out maybe Saturday or Sunday next week about watch sizes being, does size matter? And in there, I specify saying that the dress watch falling in the realms of between, I think I said 38 to 39, just suits the piece perfectly, I think, for what it is, especially when you're dealing with such a simple machine at the same time. The Accutron is the dress watch for it's the perfect watch for an engineer, I think. The complication's amazing. And as for these open work El Primeros, you can get insane deals for these pieces because, of course, not everyone is a fan of the skeletonized balance and all of that there. These are still such great watches. I don't know if they've discontinued these pieces yet or if they're still around in circulation. But they're doing some good stuff. I mean, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing watch report for Q2, looking at those releases, and Zenith has brought out some good stuff. And then a shot from Alex again on the Polaris. I thought this deserved a bit of love. You don't see them on mesh straps very much, so that was nice. And this could double. I mean, we talk about dress watches. This could double up very nicely. We think of the Polaris inspirations from the 50s and all of that. This one definitely caps it off. It does have some ties to that back then. What I wanted to say in the beginning was that the sports watch has put a spanner in the works for the dress watch over the last 50, 70 years, basically, because of their utility and how functional they can be. I mean, okay, I talk about cliches, the Submariner being a watch that was pretty much designed to be something that could work with a suit, but also be a functional instrument if it needed to be. And iDguy saying the Rolex Explorer really is a perfect watch. You know what? What's really funny? There's not one single Explorer throughout this entire show. Not just Explorer 1, Explorer 2 as well. None of them, which is amazing. I don't think we've ever had that before, ever, on the show. So I feel very blessed, to say the least. Koji saying that as classic menswear seems to move more and more towards casual dress, okay, my definition is rather more esoteric. I want to know the dress watch is there, but not be overly aware of its presence. And isn't it funny that 70 years back, the dress watch was 35 millimeters in size, 30 millimeters even. I mean, the chronograph that you sent in, that we're going to look at, sums it up perfectly. It's a beautiful Le Couture from the 40s. Can't wait for that. Les saying a dress watch is anything you will find in stock at the Rolex AD. I rest my case. Yeah, speaking of which, we're going to see some of those in a second, which is pretty funny as well. David saying special dress watches will do well going forward. Sadly, many won't. Now, bespoke attire. And that's another. I mean, this theme of the dress watch is not going to be a very popular one in the broader circles. It's a very niche area now, especially. I'm going to carry on. Alex, thank you for these. I'm going to jump to a completely different watch. We were talking about Plovprofs earlier. This comes in from Andreas. I think he's in the chat. He mentioned that his first watch that let's look at it now. He bought a Breitling Avenger for his 20th and wanted to jazz up his collecting now as he's moving further ahead, and picked up a really unique Planet Ocean. These orange dials, bezels, are awesome. Now, we're chatting about the Plovprof being a dress watch. This thing's like 42 mils. It's not exactly what we would categorize as a dress watch. I think this came in the email a couple of weeks back, so he's able to pass with this piece. But I think it's a fun wearing. And you look at the new James Bond franchise and where it's gone, and his partnership with Omega. Luckily, there are times when you see Aquaterras being featured, but more often than not, you see Planet Oceans, you see the new Seamaster Professionals. I mean, from the 90s onwards, the Seamaster Professional has been that underlying theme. And yeah, I love Omega. It's just such a cool brand. It's just my favorite, as you know. Right, where's Hans? I don't know where he is. I think he was up last night watching the Bobby Legs show at like 3 in the morning. So I think he might have missed us. I don't know. Might still be asleep. Okay, any more of you? I am sorry as always if I miss you out in the chat. Tag me, please tag me, and I'll see your comment easily. It comes up in orange on my screen, so I'll be able to read it, no problem. Very nice presentation of this piece. The whole video that I did on the MOD Seamaster, I'll link that in the corner, all about the 165024. This is their natural progression evolving the design of this watch. And for the most part, it's great. The Helium Escape crown is not everyone's taste, but it is definitely their desired choice of design direction. It's recognizable from a distance, and I think that's a nice trait for any watch to have, that kind of element tied to it. So Will is saying Nomos. I don't believe we normally do feature Nomos watches. I don't think we do this week, but they are a good, especially now, they're very good in between when we talk about just how they work and how they are attracting many young watch collectors into this hobby too. I think that's also fantastic. And I mean, here's an example. So Andreas is wearing, looks like polished shoes. I don't know, it's a bit blurry. This looks like he's wearing this with pretty formal-ish casual clothing, and hey, it works. Nowadays, any kind of watch, that's a mechanical machine, will set off what you're wearing, regardless of whether it's a dress watch or a sports watch. We're in this phase now where the mechanical watch isn't as popular as it used to be, and today it already makes a statement regardless. Once you're seen wearing smartwatches, you've fallen into the modern clique, could we say, where the mechanical watch still feels like something that it's relevant to the enthusiasts, but not to the masses, which is bizarre when you think about it. We're in such a small world talking about these things, which is which is crazy. No nomos in my promos. Thanks for that. And the Rancher, welcome. I love that. Yeah, my favorite watch of all time. Funny, we're going to have a laugh at the piece that you sent in. Beautiful Chrono Stop, but I don't know how you managed to do it. You sent in a thumbnail of it, so it's going to be good. We'll get to you in a moment. Andreas, thank you for sending this. And I don't know, is this the same Andreas? I believe it might be. Maybe not. Let's judge by the freckles and the arm hair. Maybe it is. Maybe it might be. He sent in a shot of a swatch. I believe it's the Jellyfish, reference GZ157. This is quite a classic. As far as I know, I'm not a swatch aficionado by any means. The watch did come with a complete transparent strap to it. I think he's refitted it with something else. But these have quite the following tied to them. This is saying 1998, so it's quite a legendary machine in its own right. That is cool. I mean, talk about the dress watch. Swatch pretty much brought them back. Hey? Think about that. If we moved to the 70s and what was happening then when quartz being pushed through, if it wasn't for makers like Swatch, the dress watch would be pretty irrelevant today, especially the micro, thin, amazing movement pieces that we're going to be seeing later on. So, all hail Swatch for what they did. Right. And anymore, Roar of the Tiger says Cartier Tank is the very epitome of a dress watch. Jeff Goldblum, but I'm not an owner. I think, think Jeff Goldblum, okay. But I'm not an owner. I rock a vintage Rolex Prince. We're going to see one of those in a second. Silver 36 millimeters. Yeah. Good point. I mean, the Cartier Tank, Muhammad Ali, so many, just Andy Warhol. It just defined that generation. We look at the ladies, Marilyn Monroe, Jackie Kennedy. It's incredible. Such an amazing history. Okay, we're going to jump to Ashley next. Andreas, thank you for these. Ashley sends in a shot of a 1995 Seamaster quartz, and I believe it's like 36 millimeters in size. Very seldom do you see these models with the steel bezels. And it's a really elegant, funny enough, it's a really elegant form of what we normally look at in this category. I can see why he jumped on this watch next to the standard professional. Okay, more to the chat. Let's see if I'm missing you out here. Andreas, I'm the guy with the swatch. Actually sent it a few weeks ago when you were looking at silly watches. Okay. But I guess the size of it is pretty dressy. It fits the bill. We can always, speaking of designers, we can always make up something on the spot. So I never liked Swatch's battery against my skin. That's so funny. Okay, Demetrius, you're also coming up in a moment. 80%, of my collection consists of sports watches. This must change. Need to move to the territory of elegance and simplicity. Very good point. We're actually, as we get to the more heavy, we're going to see some serious heavy-hitting stuff, like an up-down in a moment. Saxonia with Subsec. Actually, in the next 2-3 slides, we're going to see some incredible watches that are heavily priced. They're definitely in that tier of once you've moved into the dress watch space, when you've moved into the horology segment, we could say. So we can chat about that in a moment. I think it's a goodie. Tom is saying I wore a swatch similar to that at school. I mean, they were the jam back in the day. I'm pretty sure my first watch as a youngster was a swatch. Tiny little thing, like 30 millimeters. Okay, so any more here? Apologies if I'm missing you again. I was looking at a Zeitwerk today. Mark says, do we have one? Yes, we do have a Zeitwerk later on. Russell was kind enough to send some in, so it'll be fun. Okay, so really cool piece. And he also sent, I mean, how awesome is this? I don't know if this is his full collection. Amazing photograph too, Ashley. If I don't thank you for your photographs or commend how brilliant your photography is just as a community. You know I mean it, because the shots are just incredible. These shows wouldn't exist without you sharing the pieces, and photos like these just help really define that. So we have two this is not a Seamaster, I don't think. It's just an automatic and a Seiko in the corner. This is probably one of, do they call it the baby grand Seiko? It's like, it's right in that, I believe it's in the Pressage category. Sorry if I butcher that. This is a 1974, I believe he said. Saab, that's it. Uran-san, thank you. It's a Saab 033. This is a 1974 example. Just amazing. I mean, this does epitomize that era. And the form factor, I mean, you can find these watches for such amazing prices today. Would recommend if you're interested in this category. And then next to it, he has more of a sports dress piece. So here we have three watches. The one in the middle is most definitely a dress watch. The one on the right-hand side leans more towards the dress. The one on the left leans more towards the sports, but does also have this dressy feel to it. And the hands and everything, that it's very well executed for what it is. You know, the sword hands aren't in your face. It doesn't have a helium escape valve. Polished bezel, which is nice. Applied batons, clean. Plus the wave dial is also very cool. Awesome selection. Ashley, thank you for sending this in. Really nice. And I'm missing you again in the chat, and I'll be there. Nice lugs on that gold Omega. I agree, Thomas. Something about that simplicity. It feels like what we saw in the 60s. As we moved to the 70s, we saw that very straight form that they approached it with. The 50s, like your model that you have, the 50s pieces were very deco, very voluptuous. That'd be the best word. Yeah, so cool. Dan the Watchman, great having you here. I think we're going to see something from you in a moment, which is funny. Ashley's in the chat. It's a Seamaster, I promise. Omega sadly redialed it during service. Oof, unfortunate, very unfortunate. Yeah, it still looks great though. I mean, you can't go wrong. Even if the dial condition is too immaculate for the age of the watch, I love it. Superb. And we're going to see, I mean, one of the best, Chrono Craze. He's coming up later. He sent in a vintage Vacheron Constantin that was his father's. Just gorgeous, similar to the style of this Omega. So it's going to be good fun. Okay, let's get to some really heavy stuff again. Hitting the Calatrava 5196. This comes in from Attis. He sent in two amazing shots. Again, I will say that I did not expect you all to take it so literally when I said dress watches. I think the way I described the community post was something like, I would like your interpretation. What do you think defines the dress watch? And yeah, some were loosely translated, but some are very direct to what we would expect to see. So here we have the earlier generation of the 5196. In a moment, I don't know, an hour's time, we're going to see the latest evolution with the sub-seconds, but then the full hobnail bezel. The 5196 is amazing. This looks to me, I'm trying to check the lighting. I think this is a yellow gold, judging by the hands. So this is a J variant. And one thing I just have to implore is the way they've applied the hobnails individually for the minutes. That is just such a nice detail that you don't see often. And yes, it's pretty much the archetype of the dress watch that we see today. The reference 96 was around, I think it began in 1930 something, correct me. It's just incredible to think that it's remained as relevant today as it is. Hey, look, for most people today who wear the sports watches, this does look very old-fashioned. But as far as a design that's pretty eternal, this hasn't changed very much. And it still looks good. Really good. Okay, carrying on to the chat. I see Les saying the only one to wear is a black tie. Hold on. The only one to wear at a black tie dinner wearing a tux is the Rolex Datejust Tuxedo dial. That is a cool piece. We're going to have a look at a 6007 later on. It's my only choice when at conferences. Awesome. All the divers and GMTs, white socks are cretins. Yeah, we're gonna see all of that actually. It's a really superb selection. Everything from the sports to Moses, and it gets deep. Thomas says really nice watch. I'm wondering, question to the panel, do we feel that this watch is too overblown at this point? Have people just hyped them up similar to the sports watches we see today? This is probably one of the most highly sought after, highly in demand dress watches in the Patek line. I would say in most, I mean, comparing this to the Lange Saxonia Thin as its rival in quotations, this one has always jumped on, I think for many good reasons. Koji mentioning cretins. Yeah, I'm quite the white sock wearer myself, so I think I need to change that. That's fantastic. It's a really nice piece. And speaking of which, guess what the next watch is in the selection? We're going to have a look at a Saxonia, small seconds. Aren't you supposed to not wear a watch with a tux? BS, that is a very good point. So the epitome of the dress occasion is that you don't wear watches at all. We're really going back in time. A dress watch should just be defined as something that doesn't have a running seconds, should be as simple as possible with no complication whatsoever. That 1815, if I go back to it, since we're pretty early on in the show, I love the fact that this is almost the German archetype of what you see a dress watch as today. It's just so stunning. And then we look to see what the Swiss approach would be. Similar, but different. Batons instead of numerals, all of that. Okay, Marco, good to have you here. I don't know if the 5196 is least desirable. 5107 is so much nicer. It is good. Are we talking about the one with the crown guards and all of that? It's stunning. Probably one of my favorites too. The crown guard integration and how that works with the flow of the lugs. Display back, of course. This having a snap-on back, which is not that desirable there. Does the 5196 use a spacer for the movement? I don't know, but imagine if it does. Good question. Does anyone know? If it does have a spacer, if this plastic thing holding the movement together, that's funny. Okay, next up. Attis sent in another shot, and these two works, I can understand why he sent these in. They are actually the same, but also polar opposites. What a cool strap he paired it with too. This is the Saxonia thin sub-seconds, I believe. That means then, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a Saxomatic. This one does have an automatic movement. I love the fact that we're seeing both in one selection. Really good. I mean, if we want two pieces that sum up what the dress watch is today, small in size, 37 millimeters, both very similar, but very different. And yeah, Brent's saying interesting. I think that gray strap looks so good. Works very well. Dresses are down so much today. The funny thing is that the dress watch just most of the time when you're in public with a watch like this, it wouldn't even get a second glance unless you're an enthusiast. The funny thing is that, you know, these watches pretty much established what the dress watch should look like. And, you know, so many brands out there today are just coming onto the market with their quartz movements and keeping the same profile, the same form factor, and, you know, like Daniel Wellington and all of those names. It's a funny world we live in, especially, and we were chatting about the whole moving up in tiers in the horology space. Already we've seen, just in this small gap, how these watches are very much grail pieces for a lot of us, and you're paying more for less, and it's a completely different area to what we look at when we're thinking about sports watches. You're paying for that restraint, that reduction, that brand name, for the watchmaking. Yeah, so there's lots to go through. And ladies and gentlemen, if you could tag me in the chat again, there's so much going on and I'm missing you all. Luke is asking, is that a Hadley Roma on the Lange? Might be. Attis, if you watch back on the show, maybe you can tell us if it's a Hadley Roma leather strap. And best 1,500 to 2,000 dress watch to gift my son for his wedding next year. Input appreciated. Good question. Good question. Some suggestions, ladies and gentlemen, would be great. Okay, carrying on through. Neil, welcome to the show. Nomos Orion. It's pretty good. The Orion is the one with the batons, right? I do like that one a lot. Okay, carrying through. Attis, thank you. We're jumping to Ben next. This has an awesome story, and yeah, it's just, I mean, how can you, such a cool chronograph. Wow. Universal Geneve compacts, this being the Nina Rind, which is pretty special in its own right. The story behind this watch is that he spent 5 years hunting, saving up for the ideal example. And it really does just epitomize that era. Talking about the transitional 60s to 70s, and this is just such a winning example too. Condition is fabulous. The dial itself, the loom looks great. How can you not appreciate that starkness of a Panda dial compacts? It's beautiful. And you can just immediately recognize it. That's what I like the most. In this area, there's so many examples of the Panda dials and these arrangements, but you can immediately look at this and see the cigarette-styled hands and just know exactly what it is. I love the fact that it's so, what's the word? Monotone in many different ways. Love me a reverse Panda. It's awesome. It is really awesome, Turbo. Yeah. Some are saying it's great. I see Tiny Stacker saying he doesn't like it. Hey, to each their own. Also notice it has lyre lugs, similar to the Speedmasters of the era. It actually looks, I mean, you take that dial out the watch, you would swear it's it's a Speedmaster case and all of that there. Okay, Wilson mentioning love all of these Langes. What a phenomenal brand. Oh, trust me, there's a really bad one that we're going to see in a moment. Chili Badger sent in an amazing one, and then there's also, I think from Turbo T2, he sent in a triple split that he tried on at the AD. I think it's him. Just insane. So, huge congratulations to Ben for picking up this watch. I think it is such an amazing machine. It's the condition is fantastic, but I love the fact that it's representative of that time. It's easily recognizable, covers all of those points. 121 says the Universal looks like a Speedmaster mated with a Daytona. Liar lugs. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way. Even when we look, the nice thing I like is that at the 12, the penis is actually pointing down instead of up that we normally see in the Speedmaster category. I kind of prefer it pointing down. It feels easier to read that way. But it's also not making too much of a noise about the loom it has on it, which is cool. Yeah, I like it. Monotone, simple arrangement, no superfluous details on the dial, just clean, uncluttered, superb. Okay, good Clapton. Did Eric Clapton wear one of these? That's something interesting to know. Thanks for that, Eric. Doc BBC, welcome. You would love a watch like this because this is right up your alley, wouldn't you say? Yes, I do, the Rancher. I most definitely do. Much prefer it hanging low, swinging low, down boy, as BS says. And Watch by Design says dot over 90. That's so funny. Again, I mean, am I right in saying that this was also an example of a parts bin special back in the day where these watches were assembled by separate manufacturers, their cases and everything were outsourced? Could easily be the case. Very good point. So Watch My Design says not wearing with a tux is outdated. There is still some debate on the subject. However, Alan Flusser, one of the most knowledgeable experts on men's fashion, says it's fine with parameters. Oh, goodness. I mean, how can you deprive yourself of a watch when you're wearing a suit? That just sucks. That's the whole point of dressing up. You want to wear an amazing piece with it. And you're going to see lots of those. I've saved your Parmesan, which we're going to feature in a moment. Timekeeper, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Can you review my Vacheron? Send me an email. I would love to review pieces. In fact, if anyone has a piece that they would like to share, if you're based in the UK especially, to save on shipping watches overseas, send me an email. We can make an arrangement. I would love to get more hands-on reviews coming out. Something I'm lacking on this channel is more reviews of more watches. So swing low. Thank you, Rancher. Doc BBC says Eric Clapton famously owned a 4-digit Daytona. He did, and the Yachtmaster. What is it? The original yacht. What was it called? The Yacht Timer, Yachtmaster model. Anyway, Ben, thank you for this watch. Huge piece. Okay, and then we're jumping to another Calatrava. This being the next generation up. This new release. Charlie was at the authorized dealer this week, I think. This is the reference 6119R. The latest watch, I believe, came out at the beginning. Actually, Watches of Wonders this year it came out. He says he's put his name down for this piece because getting it on and in the metal, he loves it. When I look at this compared to the 5196, which would you choose? I'm actually, in a way, leaning more towards this. Let me pull up the other one. So here is the latest gen. Hobnail. Okay, let's first get this out of the way. Hobnail bezel, railroad track, makes this watch look a lot older. I think even the handset makes this watch look a lot older in its presentation, wouldn't you say? We move to the Calatrava and the 5196, and it feels more modern, also old-fashioned-ish, more modern in a way, though. I think it's the hobnail that does change the presentation of this piece. And of course, we know that a lot of early Calatravas did have hobnail bezels. They had this craze, I think, in the early 2000s and the late 90s where they hobnailed all of the watches around there. And notice it's also a double hobnail, which is very nice. We all love our light play. And we chat about fluting and all of that with a lot of the date justs and the day dates and the sky dwellers, which we're going to see later on. We're going to see a couple of those. I believe in a way that does also help define what the dress watch is classified as. Yeah. So Turbo saying the hobnail bezel is Patek's version of the Rolex. Yeah, Rolex fluted. I think they must have done it first, though. I mean, this is this is old watchmaking we're talking about here. Also, just love the fact that they have added those little hobnails on the case itself. They don't look at the markers in between, but they do look at the 5-minute markers. I also do appreciate the railroad track. It's very dated. We can put that in quotations too, but does close up the dial a bit more, makes it feel a bit more intact, considered. Yeah, I like it. Do like it a lot. What an awesome presentation too. Charlie, thank you for sending this in. Again, the heavy hitters keep on coming. We're going to look at a Lange up-down in a moment. Claude de Paris, it's really nice. Wait, it's a Calatrava that looks different, so the Ranger says. Is that a thing? Yep, this is their latest move. Slight updates. Very clean, got to say. Hitting the coffee. I'll be with you in a moment. Dan says this is a way better movement than the 5196. Oh, that was one of the things. It's like stuff like the power reserves have been updated. I'd like, if you could explain some of the specifics, I'd love to know. Has their chronometer rating changed? What's the, I mean, I've been looking at the footnotes of this piece. I don't even know the size of it, if it's 40 mils or if it's 37 where it normally sits. Okay, so I'm going to carry on through. There's so many more watches to get through here. Been running for 45 minutes and barely scratched the surface. We've got lots to go through. Okay. 121 says, would love to have a Cellini for a dress watch. Any in the show? I think the watch that we're going to look at is a Cellini. It's that rectangular cased model. I don't know if it's a Prince or if it's a Cellini, but it's one of those. We're going to get to it. Once we get to Juan, we'll see it. Okay. Alex Scottabale, pleasure having you here. Thank you again for all of you who are joining in. Thanks so much for being a part of these shows and keeping the banter going. You come for the watches, stay for the laughs. That's what we do here. Okay. And Rancha says, got to tell you about the Astra Espresso maker I nabbed this week. Talking about coffee. Had an Ethiopian blend yesterday. I was so productive. It was crazy. Okay. Charlie, thank you for this. Good luck in getting this watch. Amazing piece. I think a groundbreaker. It has freshened up the look of the Calatrava while also keeping it relevant. And even the handset is different. It's not your typical Dauphine style. It's got some edges to it. It's a bit softer. It's not as aggressive. Okay, next up to Chili Badger. We're just rolling with the punches here. Lange up down 41 from Chili Badger. And this was, I don't think I had an up down. It was just the original platinum datograph. This is also just an amazing watch. I think he tried this on at a boutique, or I don't know, maybe he bought it. It's difficult enough to save these descriptions. Of course, you might know that up-down stands for ab and auf, which is the German description of those two words. That's why it's defined that. Not all of these models come with a power reserve. I think this is an earlier generation of the datograph. Today they've changed the form a little bit more. The subdials have shifted or they've changed in color. I don't know. I can barely keep track of half these things. Question of whether it works on a brown leather strap with a black dial or not. Justin mentioning Tanzanian pea-berry, ultra fresh roasted. That was actually suggested to me. I mean, I didn't even know these existed. I come from Africa. I didn't even know the Tanzanian, this and that, the Botswanan and the Zimbabwean and the Mozambican and Ugandan. How far do we go? What's that chupacabra? No, what's it called? Kopi Luwak. Where does that come from? That's in South America, right? Okay, carrying on. I'm missing you in the chat again. PMU UK, welcome. Tuning in from your desk, night shift. I feel you, man. I feel you. Technically, I'm doing the same, but I love it. This is good fun. Got some alcohol, got some banter going on, some amazing watches to chat through. Coffee was discovered in Ethiopia, or so they say. Good grief. Truth is, did not know that. Marcus says early models, yes, early models of the Dato had numerals. They were Romans. I handled the first gen, the platinum first gen with the Romans. It looked amazing. They really are worth the price you're paying. 39 mils in size, and that weight is just exceptional. Paul, welcome to the show. Many more of you that I'm missing in the chat. So what else can we say about this watch? I love the big date. I've addressed this before. I think if you want a date complication on a watch, nothing really does it. I mean, there's nothing superfluous on this dial when we look at just how well it's been done. You don't need a Cyclops lens. It's more of a feature there. It's no longer just tacked on, for the sake of it. This date is focused on being as ideal as possible. Subdials, well done. I love the idea that it's shifted down. It's pretty much what's defined this piece. Later on, we're going to see a Patek 5370, one of our favorites, I think close to the end of the show. And they're just superb. I mean, talking about dress watches, this is a theme. Okay, carrying on. As long as you don't think about where the coffee berries passed through, the most delicious coffee I've ever had. Yeah, Turbo, I've heard that story. It's probably one of the most infamous coffees around. Dato is nice, but the 1815 is better. Marco, yeah, I'm the same boat as you. 1815 is one of my absolute favorites. Those numerals just sets it off so differently. 1815 black, that would be me. Just insane. Okay, we're jumping to Clive next. Clive sent in a Chrono Stop, and for some reason, I've never seen this before in my life, he managed to send in the thumbnail of the Chrono Stop. I could not save the image on the email, try as I might. So squint your eyes and you'll be able to see it. The Chrono Stop is a really cool piece. They are insanely good value for money. Unfortunately, you can't see the details here, but again, squint your eyes, you'll be able to see the rough edges of what it looks like. You don't very often see these on bracelets, which is also really cool. The condition looks amazing, even though it's pot marked and pitted all over the place. So yeah, we've got a picture basically from the 90s, just when we started getting dial-up internet. But you get the idea. It's got an orange seconds hand. Chrono Stop is a cool complication. These are awesome pieces. Awesome pieces to get. I would recommend, if you're getting into the vintage Omega space, these are still sought after and easy to find, regardless of where you are in the world. Shot with a Nokia. I was about to say, Marco, shot with a Nokia, I would say from like, I don't know, early 2000s, 2003, with those first time we ever had color screens and stuff. It's so good. So Ranger says it's a reference 145.008. I love it. I love the Chrono Stop. Sadly, we can't see it. In fact, Oris makes a model similar to this. I don't know what it's called. I think they call it a Chrono Stop or something along there. Similar design. Also, if you want something new in the space, would recommend. But thank you, Clive, for the dial-up shot. Maybe next week you could send one that's clearer. I don't know how it happened, but we all have our ups and downs. At my age, everything looks like that. Yeah, so had some good time to have a look at this. This does remind me of a picture that we would see in the 90s. Okay, we're going to move across to Christopher next. And he sent in something amazing. So a couple of weeks back, I did a video all about the watches of the French Armed Forces. And in it, chatted about the Type 20 and all of those cool references. And this comes from Auricost. Auricost being one of the manufacturers that were responsible for the Type 20s, those pieces. And this being an original marine chronometer from 1955. This is some really cool stuff. This is when you get deep into the hobby. Again, this is not dress watch specific, but I mean, the idea of the marine chronometer, keeping that accuracy, hydrographique, service hydrographique. So, I mean, this is like the real deal. We're talking proper marine navigation. This is for the Navy. And the purpose of the marine chronometer, I'm sure most of you know. I've done a video about that in the past, all about longitude. You want to keep track of where you are in the world. It helps. You don't want to be off by a few degrees because you get lost. So it's very important to have a watch that's extremely accurate. And that's why they're actually put in these separate cases so that the movements aren't tampered with when you look at the movement, when the watch is moving with the ship and all of that there. A really fascinating history. And we're going to feature a Universal Geneve later on, which is based on its marine chronometer from back in the day. And there's lots of history. Watchmaking, it's very deep. And Mark says, very cool. Wait, French have armed forces? Yeah, they do, Hugh Maestro. You wouldn't believe it. Shot with a 2210 Chili Badger. I think that's the exact. That's so funny. That's so funny. Anyway, Chronoris, that's the one. Chronoris is the example. Mezzanine mentions it. If you want the Chrono Stop style, it's called sounds like an infection. I have Chronoris. Hodinkee travel clock. BS, don't remind me. That was entertaining, though. Hey? Those were the days. Beautiful example, though, from Christoph. I believe, let me try if I have a description of this watch. I don't know if he got it from his service hydrography from 1950. Okay, so that's it. I thought this was given to him, but I think he picked it up at an auction. So cool. So cool. And I love the handset. This just defines so many of the RAF pilot watches from back in the day. Blued steel. Beautiful. Thank you for this, Christoph. Moving on next to something that's not a dress watch in the slightest. This is another selection, another piece that came in a couple of weeks ago. This comes in from and I hope I'm saying your name right, Com, C-O-M-E, with a little cuppy on the O. Seiko Turtle in a 92 Mustang Fox body. Fox bodies are awesome cars. So cool. Congratulations for getting your hands on one. And these have become so popular. I think we have a few more Seikos coming up. Seldom that we see them in two-tone featured. Moving in a completely different area. And next up, we're going to have a look at a Parmesan Fleurier. So yeah, German Seiko. That's it, Koji. It's pretty cool though, right? So chatting about the Turtle, we've done that often enough. Don't know if this classifies as a dress watch today, but has dressy elements. It's two-tone, so that's something. I lost feeling in my arm. I lost feeling in my arm from Chronoris. James Con says it's a funny word. It's a funny name. But all jokes aside, Oris are really pulling out the stops with their pieces. Seriously nice. And we're going to have a look at more Seikos. There's some amazing grand Seikos coming up later. JLCs. We've got lots of Reversos and Vacherons, and it's a really cool selection. Very dress oriented, but you get the drift, the gist. Mustang Fox body. Look them up. Cool history. Really interesting designs. Definite cars of that era of the 90s and the 80s, but still love the design of them. Okay, going to carry on through. Com, thank you so much for sending this in. Going to jump to Curtis. Now, I did not get a wrist shot from Curtis, but he has just picked up come back. Quite the cool grail piece, to say the least. Parmesan Fleurier being the Tonda. I don't know how well you can see this, but he got it for such an amazing price. I think he might want to mention in the chat what happened, that whole story, but he picked it up for a superb deal. Now, one of the brands that are seriously underrated today, still, I think a couple will probably attest to this, is Parmesan and what they're doing. He got this in the States, I believe, and it was shipped from Florida over to him in California. There's lots to take in. The one thing that Parmesan is known, of course, the cheese is very nice. The way the lugs are done, where they overhang, really unique. The design of the watch is also very modern in a way. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a wrist shot from him. I should have probably asked, but I should also say that this watch actually started the idea of running a show around dress watches. So I have Parmesan Regano. That's it, Marco. This watch actually defined it. Curtis phoned me and we chatted about having dress watches as a theme for the show. So this one's helped define it in many ways. It's the only Parmesan we're going to be seeing, but still a great one. Maybe next week we can feature it on the wrist and chat about it more. But huge congratulations to him. He got it about 2 weeks ago, I think. Rancher mentioning, yeah, there we go. You can pick up a white gold on eBay for $6K. I think that's what he got it for. I think this is the exact listing where he picked up the watch from, I believe. There were like 3 or 4 going for sale, and he just nabbed it, thinking like it's a no-brainer. You're getting an amazing movement. It's virtually all in-house. I think the only things they don't do in-house is like the gems, I believe. Everything else is done in-house, and that is just insane. So yeah, value for money, insanely cool. Would recommend. Okay, 6K. Yes, Koji. That's it. Here we go. Watch by design. That's Curtis. Top 4 were the Patek Gondolo, the Breguet Classique. Going to see one of those in a moment. Saxonia Thin and the Tonda. Got a killer deal. Saved 14K off retail. There we go. It was an amazing deal. I mean, $6,000. You're kidding. Hortorology. I love it. So nice. Again, Curtis, congratulations. Going to carry on motoring, and we're going to jump to a different theme altogether. To Dan, the watchman. I don't know if he's in the chat with us, but this is a snapshot of a local auction that he says missed opportunity. We look at the selection of pieces. I think this was in about 2015. Okay. And okay, let's just have a look at these selection here. We have a Universal Geneve. These are great. This is the transitional, what's it, the 903. I can never get them right. Tudor Snowflake with a date. Probably a 5513 without crown, so the movement's spinning around in there. Then we have this could be a 7016 Snowflake for all we know, and this could be a 5512. Now these watches are beaten up. They're not in the greatest condition, but then again, the whole estate went for something like, hold on, I don't know why I didn't save it. I think the whole estate went for £5,000. Let that settle in for a moment. £5,000 is about $7,500-ish, I would say, around about there. It's closer to 8,000 maybe. And here you have two Tudors two Submariners, they're all Submariners, and a Universal Geneve with an awesome inset bezel. These are really, I think it's also a pole router. Eesh. You win some, you lose some. I think this was also part of the selection too. I think that might also be a Universal Geneve. Doesn't that suck? It really does sting. Yeah, so there we go. $5,000. Oh, there he is in the chat. Dan the Watchman, $5,000. Yeah, I mean, you think of the effort that would go into servicing these pieces, paying a couple of grand for new crowns, a bit of a cleanup here and there, for extra bracelets and all of that. But I mean, you know, you're getting some pretty cool watches in the selection. Amazing. Sucks. You know, you win some, you lose some in life, as we all say. What's the chrono and plastic be it everlasting? BS. I don't know, but it looks like looks like a calendar of some kind. It looks like it has two separate windows. This could be a Universal Geneve. Maybe it's a Wittenauer. It's difficult to say. Also, this pocket watch is another example. There's a small piece here too. This looks like is that an old school James Bond light up? I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to be running over my words. Still, unfortunate, but you know what happens in life. You can miss out on some of these opportunities. The condition of some, I mean, this is minced. I don't know how you would be able to get that back to form. The second hand is just, don't you just love it when watches are just not looked after? This is in pretty good nick, considering. So is this kind of. I mean, the black dials were pretty well known for water damage on their dials, the original 7016s. This, though, this looks like a 5512. This very much does. Yeah, pretty sure it is with the long. Oh, yeah, it's a bummer. You win some, you lose some. Dan, thanks for sending this in. Let's enjoy a reverso, shall we? Let's have a look at the front of the Duoface. Duoface Moon. This comes in from Darren. So cool. There's a couple of them we're going to look at. In fact, I think there's two of the same watch coming up. Amazing photography on both ends. And when we look at the watch that is like the archetype of the dress piece today, this is one of them. This one has really defined that. It's a 1931, I believe, right? 1931 Duoface. And what I love is the fact that he shared the watch being opened, which is like one of the demands of these shows. When you have a reverso, you have to share what the back looks like. It's just insanely cool. I can't remember the story around this. I think it's quite a recent pickup from him. We're chatting about dress watches. Yes, Urin Son, we're back on track. That's a dress watch. And I love the fact that it does speak to being more of a modern dress watch today. Even though it's a piece from the 30s, it still looks just as modern now. And we look at the back end of it. I'm trying to remember all the complications. I think this is a separate time zone. Of course, you have the moon phase complication on both ends. I don't know if you have two different time zones you can adjust on these, but it's awesome presentation. It also is a navy blue. It's not black, which is also a nice feature. And it's a 2-watch-in-1 combo, which is just great. It's just so great. Hitting the coffee again. Amazing. I think that Ethiopian coffee is still kicking around in my system. Truth says no value. Oh, JLC are awesome, but only reverso Duoface. Round JLC are just watches. Funny. Good points. Isn't it sad that a lot of brands are defined solely by one or two pieces that they make? There are very few watches out there, watch brands in general, that can be defined by a handful. And you know, in the dress watch space, you think of, actually no, there's quite a few. Not just talking about the entry level, but also the higher end. The Reverso is one of those timeless pieces that, like, similar to the Tank, and you know, it's probably the most recognizable square watch in the world, next to the Tank, which is a really good defining feature of these pieces. Still amazing. I love the fact that he's captured the texture on the dial too for us to see. And it's all blued. I mean, blued hands, blue batons. Yeah, it's a gem. It's a real gem. Okay, catching up with the chat. Dual time, day, night indicator, moon phase, and date are all the complications. Thank you, Marco, for that. It's pretty amazing, huh? That's one thing that I've mentioned this before, but JLC in general, when they're dealing with their reversos, they manage to do so much with the same chassis. They don't deviate from changing the form of the watch at all to compromise just for the sake of adding the complications in. They work around it and they put the complication in the watch regardless of what it is. And that's what we've just seen with that new crazy anniversary piece. I'll talk about in like 2 weeks' time, which will be good fun. Okay, and I'll stick on this watch for a second while addressing the chat. In fact, no. Let's dump to Dear Artifact. I don't know if he's with us for the show, but he sent in a cool selection of pieces. As we would expect, he sent in Black Bay. He sends in the most superb, high-quality examples of shots. Darren, thank you for your reverso image. I did also say to Dear Artifact to send some dress watches, so he did oblige. We're going to see some of those in a second. Okay, let's get to the chat again and see. I think Truth Fears tagged me. Not Truth Fears, Turbo. Traditional view of what makes a dress watch. Technically, it should not have a seconds hand, yes, so that they aren't looking or counting the time. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea is that you're never supposed to look at the dress watch in formal occasions. I agree. That's why the Vacheron 1921, it's the 21, the 1921 traditional, what's it called? I did a video about it. Historique, I'm losing my mind. Historique, traditional, whatever the hell it's called. That's such a cool example with that offset dial. The fact that you don't need to raise your wrist to look at it, you can pretty much see it from any angle. It's a great feature, really nice add-on. Ethiopian coffee is very strong. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. They actually fit a minute repeater into the Verso. It's crazy. It's so cool. And the latest one with that whole calendar arrangement, it literally like tells you the universe on the back of it. Okay, let's chat about this piece. We think about the defining era where the sports watch came into being as, I mean, we talk about James Bond and Dr. No, Casino Royale, and all of those original books that he wrote back then, and the original Sean Connery films. I mean, Dr. No was the first. He was wearing a big crown Submariner with a suit on a terribly undersized NATO strap. I think Dr. No from Russia with Love, it was a black leather strap, and then it swapped over to the Woolworths RAF strap, and he just rocked it. And that's what I think also helped shake up the way we view the sports watch as a dress watch today, because, you know, James Bond did it. He, as a character of fiction, has quite the status in this area of being a man of good taste and fashion and all of that stuff. It's pretty amazing how Ian Fleming defined that era, you know, his character so well. How cool is it? I mean, I've said this many times, Dear Artifact and his photographs, they're like 25 megs in size, superbly high quality. Gilt dial, Black Bear 58. This watch will never really run out of steam. I think it's going to be relevant for a very long time. Speaking of which, September 1st is going to be a Marine Nationale release, apparently, according to a couple of sources, I should say. And it's going to be a good time. Looking forward to chatting about that a bit. Gilt equals formal. In a way, we could say, yes, it is. Vacheron, AP, and Patek are way too pricey. They are. There was a good comment. Roar of the Tiger says, he says, as if PP never existed. Yeah. Funny. There was a character in one of his books that wore a Patek. Was it Blofeld? Or was it... I can't remember, but that he explains a lot of the watches that the characters wear, which is pretty good. I do like that a lot. Okay, really nice piece. I think the presentation of this is just insanely cool. The grain on the dial you get to see and appreciate. But then, of course, he did send in some shots of a Max Bull Junghans. Now this, I mean, with what he's wearing, pretty interesting combo. I think this watch is like 34 mils in size. And we're chatting about that level of simplicity. This does sum it up pretty well. There's another shot of it in a lapel. We can see that better. Really cool. We're chatting about the dress watch and how it's defined. This is a good example of one of those. 121 says, I've always got to follow up their artifacts pics with mine. Are you coming up next? You are coming up next. Your photos are amazing, though. 121, Dylan. It's going to be good. We're going to have a good look at those in a second. And Father Artifact. Good to see my son's pics on Father's Day weekend. You're right. Coming tomorrow, right? Father's Day is on the 20th. And Clive, it's like you sent in your second photo. That'll be saved for the next show. I promise. And now there's debate in the chat about VC and Patek and AP being overpriced. Considering what you're getting, yeah, it's difficult. As you move up these tiers and you move up to the older, more established names, so the names dictate the prices of a lot of these watches. Let's not kid ourselves. The condition of these pieces, the quality of the build that goes into a lot of them does demand a hefty price. But then you look to other areas of brands that maybe haven't fully established themselves yet. We're going to see some some really hectic stuff in the moment. In fact, you're going to see some MBNF pieces and those. Again, brands, once they've established themselves, they can start really demanding prices for their pieces. Really nice Junghans. And this is a Universal Geneve pole router, as you would expect. It's also from our man, Dear Artifact. His shots are just insanely cool. Again, you've got the Lyre lugs. This being on a bond clip bracelet, I think, from back in the day. This could be a Forstner Bands strap. Yeah, they're so cool. Yeah, but it's good fun. This theme has already been pretty good. We've dabbled into all realms. We've looked at vintage. We've looked at modern. We've looked at sports, dress. We've clashed them pretty well together. And the show has been running for 70 minutes. So how's that? It's worked out pretty well. So Les saying, first James Bond watch in film, the Gruen Precision. Yes, that was. That's for Dr. No. His first scene in the casino, I believe. Gruen Precision. Gold, yellow gold, I believe. That's so funny. Yeah, and then he swapped over to the Submariner and, history was made. And we've chatted about it so many times that Fleming wore the 1016 and he was pretty well dressed for what he did. So it's a really strange subject when we talk about how the sports watch has defined this area and what is classified as. Yeah. Okay, carrying on. Vacheron in production since 1755. Perspective. It's hectic. It is really hectic. I know. Okay, going to carry on through. Next piece. Nicholas saying, loved early Gentas. This being one of his defining pieces. I believe this was, correct me about the date, but this was in the 60s. Hey? This was prior to any of his real standout pieces in the AP Patek category. So yeah, amazing. The pole router with those dividing lines. Amazing design. The fact that you have a fluted bezel on the inside that acts as your hour markers. Really clean approach. Okay, carrying on. Dear Artifact, as always, follow him on Instagram. He takes the most amazing, high-quality photographs. Can't get enough of them. Jumping to Demetrius next. Demetrius based in Greece. And I don't know if this had any theme about, I think he did mention dress watches. I don't have any. But as far as Omega goes, I only saved you Aquaterra. You sent me a Speedmaster earlier. And funny, I don't think we have any Speedmasters for the show. I saved this thinking this is a very good example of a dress sports watch. Coming next week, I'm going to get it done for Wednesday. I'm going to be making a video all about the new Aquaterra release that has not been very well covered. I haven't seen any major blogs talking about this new model, the sub-second variant. It's brand new, small seconds. And I look forward to discussing what I think it means. And I really think it's a great development. I might be one who's in the minority on that point, but I think it looks amazing what they've done with it. It's a peculiar machine. Versatility, Nicholas mentioned. So that's what I like about it. Where we look at its competitor like the Datejust and the Explorer. This is what I've said in the video. The Datejust looks more like a dress watch in that zone. Dressy sports. The Explorer looks like sporty dress. This one does a good job at riding both. I don't know how it's possible, but that's the impression it gives me with the way it's done and presented. Demetrius, no crying now. I don't know what's going on in the chat. I'll catch up with you in a moment. Still, great piece. This is one of the first generations of the Aquaterra with the date on the right-hand side. Still, superb example. Great presentation. I think it's a 36 mil, 37 mil. Yeah, awesome. Demetrius, we've chatted about so many of your watches. And don't worry, we're going to get to more later on. John, welcome. Thank you for the super chat. We're going to have a look at your, I think it's a marathon you sent us. That's going to be good fun. So you say, is there a watch with a skeletonized dial that could pass for a dress watch? Oh, there's some amazing examples. There really are. Just if we go, of course, the issue with skeletonizing is that it just ramps up the prices of them stupidly. You think of AP, you think of Vacheron do some amazing skeletonized variants. Very good point. In fact, I'm really liking what Piaget has done with their skeletonizing recently. Definitely not for everyone, but some cool examples. And there's a question about the Aquaterra. Let's see. Turbo mentioning Kari Voutilainen. That's an awesome piece too. Inverse skeleton. Actually, how's this? The Cartier Santos. What is it? The glow in the dark model. What is it? The more modern variant? The XL, I think it's called. That is a cool watch. Really cool watch. And you can't not deny the Santos is a serious dress piece in its time and what it represents. Okay, so Turbo says, do you like the shape of the Aquaterra date window? I do. I really do. But the bottom of the small seconds, I think it integrates very well. I look forward to talking about it. There's something about it. I'm looking at the Aquaterra differently now by how they've addressed it, and that video will explain it in more detail. I go back into the history of the Seamaster, the originals, and just what I think it represents. It's very exciting, and I know it's funny that no one's been covering it. It's just the subject has really fallen on deaf ears for a lot of people. So I hope to bring that up a bit. Breguet tradition, BS, good shout, really good shout. That is amazing. We're going to have a look at it, a stunning classique later on. Okay, carrying on through. It just muddles the proportions. It's another thing. Yeah, the Aquaterra has a full range of sizes. Okay, moving through to Dylan, 121 click bezel, amazing photographs. And this is actually a very relevant watch for the theme, chatting about dress watches and how this is the closest we're going to get to seeing an Explorer today, which is pretty damn funny. Air King, 40 millimeters, I think. The most funky dial. Air King has a cool history, but then it's that whole, I love the photograph too. Santos Dominos, that's it. I love it. So catching up with the chat, there was another question. I think Turbo says, do a video on this. Yeah, please do a vid on the new design. Yeah, it's all done. The audio is done. I've just got a few backing images to prepare, and the editing should be done by Wednesday next week. Look forward to sharing it. Yeah, the new Aquaterra has opened up a new realm of interest for me, most definitely, which is strange. I've never really been drawn to the Aquaterra very much. This new one with the sub-seconds, yeah, talking about dress watches, I think it helps push the direction of it in a different way. Okay, so any more comments that I'm missing out here? Again, tagging me in the chat. I can't see much. I know I love my Air King. It's cool. Really cool. Awesome shot, by the way. And this, to me, I mean, I actually titled this Air King cover. Dylan, this almost made the cover for the show. This was second in the running. I mean, we're chatting about dress watches, but this made such a good image. I think the your photography is just getting nuts. It's surreal. I love it. Just amazing. I also think this was the highest rated in megabytes and pixels. This image alone, it was huge, bigger than Dear Artifact submission. And yeah, I mean, how many times have we chatted about this watch before? Also love the fact that you wear your watches and then it's sort of scratched up and it's been used, which is great. Okay, hitting some more coffee. Got 5 on it. Yeah, I mean, that's the big area of debate, that open space there. We chat about that every single time it's brought up. Hitting the coffee. Unfortunately, I ruin the experience of a lot of these watches with people when I bring up those kind of pedantic things. Pretty funny. Okay, Father Artifact. Can't wait for the silver-dialed OP to arrive. Ooh, yeah, some good examples there. I don't think we have any. No, we do. We have a Champagne Oyster Perpetual later on, which is going to be a nice one to get. Look, that gets worn a lot. Cool. How many KB did my photo? Oh, kilobytes. I think, Clive, actually, I'm trying to remember, it was something like, God, it was funny. It was like 100 kilobytes, Clive. Not kidding. It was really, really good. Russell, welcome to the show. That was, yeah, Clive, I don't know how you managed to do it, but it worked. It was a couple of bits. It wasn't even bytes. We're talking bits of information you sent through. And last shot from Dylan is his famous IWC. Another good watch in this configuration as being a sports dress piece. I love the fact that the seconds hand for the chrono has been split with the, is that a date or is that a counter? I don't even know what that hand does. Is this actually a split seconds? You know, I'm new to this hobby. I prefer the oddball Rolex models. Yeah, good point, wristwatch experience. It's a strange thing that we find so many of these examples cliched today, where some are still able to stand out as being special. I mean, the Milgauss, as an example, great looking piece, engineer background, but also works as a sporty dress watch. I think it could definitely double as a dress watch today. There we go. Saramanga wore a Patek. That's the one, Roar of the Tiger. I'm going to get to you now. Dylan, thanks for sending this in. Speaking of Rolex, yeah, this comes in from Eric Bell. I don't know how that works out. Let's chat about this for a sec, because this is funny. Really funny story. So, okay, we chat about it. I don't know if he's still with us, but we'll chat about that in a sec. The villain, as we said, Saramanga wore the Patek. Quite the moniker. It's cool. It's man with a golden gun. Yeah, and he was so descriptive. Fleming was so descriptive of these villains and their watches. There was another example. I think it was Hold on. I'm trying to remember now. It was Gerard Perigo. There is mention of a Gerard Perigo in one of the books too, one of the other villains. I believe that was Blofeld. Didn't he wear it? I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it is a split seconds. Thanks to that 121. Okay, so this is this is funny. I'm going to chat about this story for a sec. Doc BBC, thank you so much. If you're still with us, thank you, and for the super chat. It's an absolute pleasure. You're saying knowledgeable, entertaining, live screams. I love screaming live. I'm one of the best. Thank you. Really, I love these shows. It's nice to take a 2-week break so you can recharge the batteries and get in there and have a laugh. Okay, Eric, let's chat about this. You say in and out. This watch came in, and within a week he had sold it. He sent me a photo of this watch in hand. He did this to spite me, by the way. If you know rugby, I'm an avid Springboks supporter, and All Blacks are like my rivals. So the Black Daytona is a cool watch. It really is nice, and it's actually, we could say, quite the outlier next to the Panda, which is just seriously overblown for what it is in this category. The black on black has something else to it. It's got a bit of uniqueness, a bit of a special factor tied to it. So I know he did this to spite me. I'm going to move away from this. I can't stand looking at that fern leaf. So chatting about the story. So he sent a photo of the watch in hand. I didn't save the image, but the watch looked like a 26 millimeter lady's watch in his hand. Pretty funny. And the thing is that the way they supply these watches on the bracelet and everything else, there weren't enough links to get it over his hand onto the wrist. And he did say in the email to me that this is the closest he will ever get to wear a dress watch. We know Eric is a pretty big guy. He wears 48 mil plus watches. So a 39, 40 mil Daytona didn't last very long. I think it's so funny that it was literally within like 3 days it was gone. He bought it, sold it. Sadly, this happens more often than we think. Scaramanga had a nipple dial, Forbin. He did. Third nipple dial. So there we go. Thank you so much for that, Eric. It really fills me with joy. So looking forward to the Lions tour happening next month, right? It's going to be good fun. Really good fun. Okay, carrying on. Awesome. I think this is the only Daytona as well. And it's hilarious to think that this is the only Daytona, and it comes from someone who never chats about Daytonas or even has any Rolexes in his collection anymore. Sea Dwellers. He had a Sea Dweller and an old Submariner, but that's about it. Anyway, going to carry on through. There's a good question. Watch and pray. White Daytona Mark 1, Black Daytona Mark 2. Go. Are we talking the Mark 1 meaning the steel bezel? Very nice. Very nice example there. Should have traded for a Sea Dweller. Justin, I don't know if you've heard his Sea Dweller story. He bought a Sea Dweller 43 and destroyed the crystal within a week as well. He's pretty rough with his watches, to say the least. So it's good that this watch went before he decided to go diving with it and scrape barnacles off the bottom of ships. Okay, moving on. Eric, thank you for this. Let's chat about another Reverso. This is a different example. Let's get to the front of it. Oh, I love it. Now, again, this is also a duo face, but is this called the traditional duo face, or what do they say? Master control duo face? I can never keep track with the naming of these, but we've just moved to the classic example of the Reverso in many ways. Sub-seconds, which is amazing. Beautiful photograph. Just this is from Ernest again. Golden hour, I think he mentioned. Just such a nice shot. Oh, it's from, hold on a sec. He mentioned it's from 1999, and it's a Grail watch of his that he just picked up recently. And there we go. Got sword hands at the back, which is cool. Day-night indicator. Clean, simple. I love the way the dial has been on both sides, finished. You got some Guilloche, you got some, I don't know, Côte de Genève, however best you'd be able to describe it. It's got a single pusher at the side here, I guess, to adjust the time. Maybe, no, probably the day-date complication. Maybe. Oh, just so clean. Love it. Excellent photography too. And when we think of the classic Reverso from the 30s, this conjures up that image. Design Atelier, welcome from Aruba. Great having you here. Yeah, we've had some good banter over the last 83 minutes. Lots of laughs, chatting about, surprisingly, keeping to the topic, keeping to the theme of dress watches, even still. It's just great. Awesome having you here, man. Yeah, Reverso is stunning. I'm missing you in the chats. Russell says, you should be getting a Reverso, Russell. I think that should be on your cards next. I think we're sick and tired of all the Langes that you're collecting. Next up needs to be what's a good example? Ooh, just get a 1931. Make us all happy. It's beautiful. I love it. These are the only two reverses that we're going to be seeing. We saw one a bit earlier on. I don't think there are any more. Stay around though, because we have day dates, date justs, oyster perpetuals, Moses. Nuts. Just nuts. Oh, and here's another shot from him, getting a better view of the watch in more direct light on an ostrich strap, I believe. I think this is standard issue from JLC. Look at the texture of that dial. It's mesmerizing, huh? It really is stunning. JLC. And we were chatting about this a second ago, the whole thought piece on the brand being defined by the one watch they make. Sadly, in many ways, the Reverso is just that. Defines what JLC is as a maker now. But there's so many good examples in their lines too. I love their master control pieces. Their Polaris that they do, so cool. So cool. I'm really considering, after the Rolex bug has bitten and I've gotten over that hump, jumping into JLC next as the next example. Yeah, ADR therapy. Many more of you joining that I haven't said hi to. Welcome to the show. We are just chatting away. It's been 84 minutes and there's still a lot to come up. I mean, we've got Vacherons and more JLCs and Maurice Lacroix, and yeah, going to carry on through. Ernest, this is the last shot he sent in, and beautiful. What a beautiful example of this watch. Honestly, I love it. Such cool photos too. Just captivates you. Catching up with the chat a bit more. Let's see what else is going on here. I want a Hamilton Otis. Haven't heard of that one before, Dan the Watchman. And I still have a selection of your vintage pieces that I haven't shared that I need to pull out come next week. It's a pusher for the second time zone hour hand. Thank you, Turbo, for that. And yeah, many more of you here that I'm missing out. Sorry about that. The chat is just nuts. It's always busy. Texture versus smooth makes it more legible for some reason. Hey, good point. I think that in a way is a part of the process. It's breaking up the dial so it's easy to read in some circumstances and situations. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so Ernest, beautiful. I think you win the Reverso shootout this week. The photography is just incredible. I love the lighting, the close-ups, the case design of these things, just timeless, simply amazing. Jumping to Frank next, and this was the watch that he sent. We actually featured this in a video clip at the very beginning of the show. Now, I believe he traded a Patek Calatrava 5196 as a part of the trade for this piece. Very unique day date that I've never seen before. Meteorite dial with baguette diamonds, white gold. And when we speak about the dress watch in the Rolex camp, does it get any better than a day date in precious metal? I mean, if we're borrowing the Cellini line, this is like as top end as it gets in this category, I think. I also really love the meteorite dial. Works nicely with the diamonds. I would never normally say that. I'm not much of a fan of the meteorite, but you know what? I do kind of like it. It's nice to see how it matches in with the color of the material, which is cool. Yeah, really interesting. I've never seen one of these. We've featured a couple. This is a day date 40, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we've covered quite a few of these. We have looked at Juan's platinum variant at one stage. The only thing that the Reverso is missing is my wrist, Design Atelier. Your one-liners are amazing, man. Really. We need to collab on a dress watch. What would happen if two designers worked together on a dress watch? The result would end up with nothing, don't you think? Like, when you think of brainstorming, that process, you say, is the dress watch really necessary? You get really deep. The designer would just say, no, it's not necessary. Project done. And you go to the final meeting, the presentation, and you say, here are our ideas. And you present nothing. It's a perfect way to skip out on a project. Love it. I'm less of a fan of fluted bezels, Robert Tiger says. I like the fact that this bezel is not too expressive. We're going to have a look at a Sky Dweller later on next to a date, I think, coming from Javier. And we will see the difference between the two. It's actually a very nice comparison seeing them side by side. Okay, Frank, this is stunning. And next up, I'm going to check out, this is a different Frank because the watch is on a different wrist. Maybe it's the same Frank. Maybe he likes double wristing, I don't know. But he was rocking his Pepsi GMT. I think this is the only example of this watch that we're going to be seeing. And surprise, surprise, the only watches on display are two-tone rose gold by the looks of things and ladies' day dates. And walking past the window, rocking pretty much the most in-demand watch at the moment in the sports space, sadly, unfortunately. A lot of collectors can't get their hands on these pieces just because the demand has skyrocketed so much. Rolex GMT is the best watch Rolex makes, in your opinion? We're actually going to have a look at some awesome shots from George in a second of the Batman on the Jubilee. One of my favorites by far. If I could choose, if I had a choice between the selection of these professional models next to the Explorer, which is a different category, I think, I would be jumping on the Batman and the Jubilee. They are so nice. Ranger says it's not like meteorite dials just fall out the sky. You know, yeah, they don't grow on trees either. Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Funny to think that micro brands can charge such small prices for meteorite dials, where the big names can do the same thing, charge exorbitant prices just because it's a unique element they've added to the dials of their watches. It's it's funny. Bruce Wayne is as good as it gets, Marco says. That's, oh, of course, Batman and Jubilee. Yeah. I don't know where these names come from. Any Blancpain dress watches today? No. I mean, their Le Mans are amazing. One of my favorites, that Aqualung Le Mans we featured before, just an absolute gem. Okay, so Frank, stunning. Next selection of pieces. This comes out of the Arthur family folder. I think Megan is flying today. She's flying across to Los Angeles, so she can't be with us. Or it could be very early in the morning where she is at the moment. But I decided to select 3 dress watches from their collection, which is, I wouldn't say tame. Pretty interesting, though, as a combination. Frank, thanks for sending these in. We're going to have a look at them. I believe this is a Moser Endeavor. I can never get these names right. This being a center seconds coffee dial. I believe we're going to see another one of these later on, featured by Tarek. That should be good fun. He has some awesome press pieces we're going to look at. Really cool. I mean, this is the first Moser we're seeing for the show. Fume dial at its best, and I love the color of this. I think it's such a versatile color. Tobacco, that's it. Justin, tobacco is a better word. It's such a versatile color for what you're using it for as a daily wearer with suits, sports, any kind of arrangement. Love the presentation. The leaf hands, there's so much to enjoy. I think the size is, it's 39 mils, correct me there. But this one in particular, there's a handful. I mean, there's so many colors. I think there's like at least 15 different variants of blues and turquoises and purples and reds. And this one especially does just hit the spot. Very, very clean. Meteorite dial shower for sure. Okay. Batgirl. Yeah, the name Batman, Batgirl, I do like the Bruce Wayne element to it, because technically Bruce Wayne is wearing the suit, so it kind of makes more sense that it's the dressed up version. And funny, the majority prefer the Batman on the Oyster, which is something. I think the GMT deserves a Jubilee bracelet, excuse me. Beautiful fume dial. It's stunning. I mean, we can just look at this thing for ages. The light play is awesome. And I do think we're going to see the exact same watch come the end of the show, taking in a few other dynamic lights, thanks to Tarek. Okay, and then next up, we're jumping to quite the hitter in this category. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is a legacy machine, MB&F legacy machine. Now, we chatted about the Parmesan earlier on being an outlier still, and you can still get them for amazing prices. As far as I know, MB&F as a brand is not one that's really managed to meet its stride, and the best watches they sell for like over retail prices are generally the collaboration pieces they do with. I mean, one of the most recent they've done is Moser. Actually, they collaborated with Moser on this awesome watch. But I do think this is a legacy. No, it's perpetual. Thank you, Russell. You know this better than me. What's amazing is how this watch has defined what it is. It's a crazy cool machine. I like the fact that it allocates quarters of the dial for each part. So you read it, from left to right if you'd want, and the open work, and it's a crazy animal. It's a really crazy animal. I still don't know what these two gadgets do. The one side we have, this looks, I don't know if this is a regulator for the mainspring because it's sitting there. This could be something to adjust the mainspring speed. And then over here we have a power reserve. Maybe not. Someone can maybe help me there. But I just thought, as far as a colorway goes, it's also really nice. Teal arrangement. And there was mention about the roundness of the crystal. Yeah, that the dome crystal is pretty much how these watches are defined. And I love how they do that asymmetry work. But I've also saved one of the best for last. This is the third watch in the migraine machine, Chili Badger. It's good. It's good. I'm missing a lot of comments from you guys. I'm sorry about that, everyone. Let's see. Beautiful Fume catching up here. Holy moly, I'm such a fan. They are really special. And again, I know they're obviously extremely expensive, but next to the other pieces in this sort of ballpark, still really attainable. They're not ones that have the pull that other pieces do. Where do you start? Mark says, yeah, I agree. I do agree. And let's see. So Marcus says power reserve is on the right, leap year on the left. Thank you for that, Marco. Makes sense. Does make sense. That's great. Thanks for pointing that out. Isn't it cool? I mean, this is a perpetual calendar, ladies and gents, and it looks like a classical piece, but also has modern elements to it. Very dressy, formal. How would it work over a sleeve? Because of that domed crystal, I don't know. It's just great. There is genuinely interesting interview Tim Mossy did with Max Buser in his podcast. Would recommend. They do some good interviews over at Watchbox. Basically said how unprofitable his company was. Yeah, I mean, there's many factors to it. It's like the runs that they do generally, the watches are like 25 to 40 pieces in a batch they make. The effort that goes into making each one, it's a difficult business. I mean, it really is. But again, fascinating. Okay, moving on to quite the heavy hitter. Again, we're looking at a Grubel 4C next. It's just insane. It's just insane. We're going to look at it in a moment. Marcus says this actually has a foolproof perpetual mechanism where it cannot set during the danger zone. Really? Thank you for that information. I mean, this is just so out of my area. I love chatting about aesthetics, but when it comes to movements, you're talking to a caveman. Steampunk Doc Brown. That's so good. Okay, last but not least, Grubel double tourbillon. Yeah. Funny, when I looked into the Arthur file, as it is running quite low on pieces, and these were the best dress watches I could find next to the Bulgari Octo Finissimos and all of that. This is one of the most hectic but also dress oriented piece that is in the selection still. I've removed quite a lot of them over time. We've featured a couple in the past. Double tourbillon. And the beauty of this, what I love so much about what Grubel does with their tourbillons, is they angle them at 30 degrees. Having it at an angled position means that the tourbillon works like it should. It actually does go against gravity. When one tourbillon isn't enough, yeah. I mean, these are all just insanely cool pieces. Not a watch for everyone. It's big. It's really oversized for what it is. But there are lots of little factors to take in. It does ride this modern approach. You can instantly recognize it as a Grubel 4C, which is cool. And yeah, just got to say that tourbillon arrangement is something else. An off-angle tourbillon is just an amazingly cool machine. And I don't know how many tourbillons we have featured in the show. I think this is the only one. No? Maybe? Maybe Russell sent in a tourbillon. I can't know. You don't have a tourbillon yet. You do, but I can't disclose what it is. Okay. Yes, he did. He said Tim Mossy with an I. Thought it was pretty good. This is just nuts. Grubel is the best level finishing. It's crazy. It is just, where do you even start with a watch like this? It's so above and beyond my pay grade, this category. It's got everything. The man hours that go into these pieces, or woman hours. I think they only make like 10 of each example. And this being one of a few that the family collects, this one is just nuts. I mean, you've got the huge mainspring at the back. Another big claim to fame of theirs is the power reserve that they have on these pieces. Reserve to March. There we go. Is that 96 hours? It says there 96 hours. Yeah. So it's just so cool. Is it a retrograde? It looks like it might be a retrograde. I don't know. Oh, no, it's not. It's not. You have individual numbers marking 1, 2, 3 for the tourbillon rotation, and as it does, so it counts the seconds. Super cool. Super cool. Hardcore. Where do you even start? Just nuts. Let's get back down to earth. Thank you, Megan, for sending these in. I hope the flight is going well wherever you are in the world. If you're catching up with the show in a couple of hours, literally state of the art. Yeah, this is just in a completely different ballpark. The prices of these, they brought out some cool stuff this year, actually. A titanium sports piece. I think I'll feature on Watch Report in the next few weeks. Stunning, just stunning. Would recommend. What's a great channel? Steve Halleck, TikToking. He covers a lot of Grubels and gives you a really good, simple, he explains it simply enough that we can all understand it. If you want to learn more about this brand and the significance of these pieces, he shows it to you in full detail. So I would recommend TikToking as a great channel. Okay, moving to George next. Let's get back down to earth, or stay in the skies with GMT, being the Bruce Wayne. I just call it a Batman. I mean, what the hell? Batman on a Jubilee. Awesome photographs, and one of my favorites in the sports category. We're chatting about dress watches. What does it mean? What is the modern definition of the dress watch? I really like this as an in-between. When it comes to being something very sporty, elegant, but still usable enough in this zone for any application, it just works. It's really cool. I also just love the colors. There's so many things to appreciate with this example. I know it's seriously overblown, but still, can't deny it's a cool machine. And I think this is the last of the modern GMTs. It's crazy to think. We don't have any modern Rolex on today, which is quite a nice change. Marco mentioning TikToking is excellent. It really is a good channel. Such an underrated channel. I don't know why he doesn't have more people looking at his stuff. His presentation's great. He has a serious knowledge on the most outlandish pieces. I mean, I've learned so much about Lange and FP Jean from him especially. It's great. Power reserve turns, I think it does, yep. So carrying on, Chili Badger says, in the future, we will be able to print a tourbillon watch. Yes, I mean, that's happening now, I believe. You can print a full movement of a watch if you wanted to. It's crazy. I mean, I've got a few watchmaker friends, and they love experimenting with this stuff, and they chat about it very often. I love the Bruce Wayne, but I'm biased because I own one. Congratulations. I didn't know that, Marco. That's cool. Yeah, really nice. Really nice. If I could get any of the professional models, this would be the one I'd be jumping on. This and the 36 Explorer, I'd be happy, I think. But this is like serious. I don't need this kind of watch. I don't have a GMT, but yeah, as far as the complication goes, it's really cool. Lots of little factors. And the photo is great. Good point, Thomas. I should have mentioned this. Photography is awesome. George takes incredible shots. I believe this is the same George who has the 50 Fathoms Save the Ocean in the blue color. He has a Breguet Marine boutique edition, which is also a stunning machine. I just love the dressiness to this watch. I could talk about it for ages. Let's carry on next. And this mail came in from Jay. James, John, don't know, Joseph. He's listed himself as Jay, so we'll call him Jay. And he's celebrating a champagne dial, recent pickup with champagne. And you know what happens when champagne hits the system? This photo basically sums up the effect of champagne on the system. You know, it's like that hazy effect. It's just great. Superb. Oyster Perpetual, I think it's a 34 mil champagne dial. Underrated. Works very well as a dress watch, I think. Factors in all of those aspects. And with regards to just the presentation of the shot, it's also superb. Quarter Arabics are nice. And we look at what the 36 mil Explorer is all about, and it's the same theme. Pretty much exactly the same theme. These have all gone out of circulation. 1973. I believe this is a modern one, Eric. I believe this is a modern example. As far as I know, 34 mil, what's the reference? Like a 114-200, I believe. I think that's it. I was looking at them a while back. I do find them quite charming. So this is great. I love the presentation of the photo. Champagne hitting the system, get that glow. Champagne supernova. Champagne blurs your perception. Yeah. Monogram sleeve. Very nice. Yeah. So Jay, really cool piece. Congratulations on the pickup. And I think the photograph sums it up very nicely. Love it. I meant the photo. Oh, right. Got it. Taken on film, of course. It's great. I thought he was crystal clear in the moment. Maybe he was. Yeah. This is great. I don't know how many more modern Rolexes we have to look at. Actually, we have a Hulk later on. Actually, no, we have a few. A couple of day dates and date justs. Oasis. It tickles your nose. Sure does. It sure does. Speaking of which, me and my hay fever, if I do sneeze on stream, apologies. JRE, Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan experience. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to carry on. This is you, Jay Elsner. Awesome. That's you. Well done. Again, you're being commented on your amazing shot. Sums up the evening. Very hazy. It's all good. Okay, going to carry on through to James next. Jay, thank you for sending this in. This is nice. This shot came in before the selection of dress pieces was, and I didn't ask for any dress watches at this stage. This is the Pan Freche Tricolore. Hope I said that right. Tricolori, being for the Italian, should I say, Italian Air Force. It is the Italian Air Force, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I am from Africa. So 3-color arrows of the National Italian Flying Team. 1983, Breitling produced a watch to celebrate them. The Value 7750. So this watch still looks in great nick. Let's chat about it for a sec. He did also say in the email that it's not a watch that everyone appreciates, but he enjoys it. These collaboration watches can be either hit or miss, I think, in many areas. Stunning, though. I love the colors. Very subtle use of colors on the dial, which is very appreciated. Can't stand it when you see a watch that's just multicolored for the sake of it because it's a collaboration example. Amazing to think that this is from the 80s and it still looks so clean. I mean, look at the lume and everything. It's aged nicely. Typical. Would you call it a chronomat? Would this fall into that category? They just say the Tricolore chronograph. Don't know. Value 7750, great movement. Dan the Watchman says, can you say hi, Mandy? Hi, Mandy. My wife thinks I don't have watch friends. Yeah. Hi, Mandy. I hope you're enjoying the show in the background. We're just bantering away, having a good laugh at all things. It's a nice piece. Really, really stunning. Also love the hands. Breitling can be either hit or miss with a lot of the stuff they do, especially like during this time. As we get to the 90s and early 2000s, the heavy polishing and all of that can get in the way of things. Can never go wrong with a brushed finish. I think what the modern brand is doing today is trying to go back to these roots and recapture a lot of that stuff. Okay, catching on. I like the bezel better than Breitling. The bezel is cool. There's a name for it that it always slips my mind. Italian Air Force. Thank you, Wristwatch Experience. Chronometer. It is. Oh, fantastic. I'm on fire. Alcohol's obviously helping today. Love the contrast of the crown pushes against the brushed satin case. Yeah, I mean, what would you call them? Onion pushers, onion crown, onion pushers. It's one of the defining traits, similar to the bezel. It's one of the defining features of Breitling. Another thing we could say is the way they cut out the cases with these. You always end up having a straight end link with a lot of these examples. Very seldom do you see anything else, and that works into its language very nicely. Cool looking piece. I haven't done a time check. It's been 106 minutes. So that's almost 2 hours. Good Lord, we got a lot still to go through. Okay, I'm going to have to motor through a couple more. Also love the strap. Combination's very, very nice. 3-color arrow. Thank you for that, BDev. So I'm going to try and say this again. Freche Tricolore, meaning 3-color arrow. Thank you. Yeah, my Italian is a bit rough coming out of the south of Africa. Okay, nice bezel pip right. Yeah, awesome. Really is nice. Okay, going to carry on through. Love the presentation to James. Thanks for sending it in. Nice to see a Breitling for a change. To Javier next. Sky Dweller first. Two-tone. This is a beautiful example of one. How often do we see the two-tone Sky Dweller with a cream white dial? Really cool. And as far as complications go, I think I made a video about this watch like a year, 2 years ago at this point, about why I think it's such an excellently crafted movement for what you're dealing with here. I mean, it's a full annual calendar that you're getting, essentially, with no external pushes, nothing to deviate. You function it all through the crown and through the bezel, and that's serious watchmaking. Really is seriously cool. The colors, I mean, the yellow gold and the stainless steel captures that two-tone experience from back in the day. You could swear this watch is from the 70s, maybe even earlier. Really cool presentation. Javier, pleasure. Are you in the chat? This is you. Keep up the good work. That's great. Thank you for joining in. There's lots to say. The Sky Dweller, there's a couple in the chat who do own this watch. I think our man Curtis does too, and it's a black dial variant of this. The most in demand is, we would say, the stainless steel with a blue dial, but this one is a very nice contender. I just love the fact that you can tell the date, the month with the baton on the base here. It's really elegantly done for what it is as a presentation goes. Thomas Burnett, yeah, I should say hi to Thomas. Honey monster that appears in the front. Oh, asking about your avatar. It's great, good fun. I love the cream effect with the white. This actually works pretty well. You have the white subdial inside, which matches the white of the lume. Yeah, it complements pretty nicely. The first generations where they had these glaring white accents on the subdial there didn't really work with a lot of pieces, but this one's nice. Still waiting for the stainless steel. Oh, good luck. Good luck. A couple in the chat have owned the stainless steel with the blue dial. I think some still do own them, as far as I know. Great. And then next up, what I liked about this is that we can see the contrast between this and the Datejust. How different these two pieces align themselves. This looks to be a 36 mil as well. And just look at the thickness of the fluted bezel. Again, keeping to the theme of dress watches, the fluted bezel looks great on these pieces. And the 36 mil especially, I love the fact that it's toned down. It doesn't shout for your attention. Once we move to the Sky Dweller territory, for the first time, the fluted bezel actually has a function to it, which is warranted while it is bigger in size, which is pretty nice. Also love the color. I'm guessing that you're trying to match it with the Sky Dweller at the moment. It's great. Deep blue, cool looking piece. How that's how you do two-tone. I don't know what, I'm losing my eyesight or something. Maybe more whiskey is needed. I haven't taken a breath in the last 2 hours, so give me a bit of time to catch up. I think I need to hit the Tumna Vulen quickly. Gotta love it. Oh, I was just about to say, these single malts are very smooth. Not when you take a big mouthful. Oh, haven't even had a fisherman's friend the entire show. How does that work? I was just about to say how smooth these are. Generally, sherry cask finishes can be a bit rough on the throat. So there we go. Okay, next up from Javier, this is the same selection. We have a day date. This is cool. Can someone please tell me what the language is? This looks like, I'm going to say Spanish element here. Someone help me, please. I probably botched that completely. How can you ever go wrong with a day date on rough as petrol? Did I get that right? That's fantastic. BS and owl, and so I got it. So it's Spanish. Good guess at this point in time. Yeah, it really was rough as petrol, as Eric says. That one really hit me in the throat. I mean, can you ever go wrong with, and we're talking about dress watches here. This is such a good example. You think of Get Carter, is that the film? With our man wearing a day date on a leather strap, sums it up perfectly. ARDR Therapy says, I'm drinking the Glenlivet. Which one are you having? Interested in knowing. The one I really have liked, I think it's the Double Oak Distillery Edition. It's really nice. There was a Glenlivet 15 that I was pondering on getting the other day and thought, no. I jumped back on my Glenmorangie train. I love it too much. It is Spanish. I'm from Spain. Javier, I would never have guessed by your name. Thank you. Thank you. It's great. It's fantastic to know. And here we go. Check this out. This watch is 80s, right? 80s era. Look at the size of this bezel. We move to the 36 Datejust. Look at the size of this bezel. We move to the Sky Dweller. Look at this bezel. The sizes of, actually, interestingly, the sizes of the bezels have been sized appropriately relative to how the watches are arranged and presented, which I like. Oh man, I love a full gold day date on leather, especially the burgundy. You've nailed it. Burgundy crocodile strap. I think it's crocodile grain. So nice. Really is excellent. Great selection. And we're not done yet. We've got one more watch from you. It's a Master Control JLC. This is funny. Let's catch up with the chat. Skinny fluted bezel. Yeah. And this is the thing, how the modern brand seems, just modern watches in general, seem to be very open to shouting about the external features they have, where there was so much restraint with these vintage watches. And in this area especially, the fluted bezel was there to complement the aesthetic of the watch, not to define the aesthetic as we move up the years. Yeah, it's neither here nor there. You can either love it or hate it. I mean, you're getting the fluted bezel to show it off because it's such an amazing feature, such a really definitive element that's added to these watches. But I think there's something just so much more elegant about how it's less done. And then you think of the engine turn bezel. Those just fell out of grace after the 90s. I think they sort of died with the Air King lines of pieces. But in the same way, the engine turn bezels were stunning back then. So Arantxa says that Javier could be one of the Dublin Galados. Maybe, you never know. Skinny fluted bezel. Fluted bezel was invented as a screw-on device for front-loaded Rolex in the 30s. I did not know that, Mark. That is amazing. Great history there. Makes perfect sense. I mean, you think of how they were attached. Those original bloody, what are they called? Never going to get it right. The oyster, come on, use your brain. It's been 2 hours now. I'll get to it eventually. Cushion case, no. What are they called? Bubble backs, that's the one. Those examples had, similar aesthetics. Really interesting. Okay, going to carry on through. Thank you for these, Javier. Really liked it. And we're not done yet. We're going to check out a stunning. We're chatting about JLC being defined by the reverso. This Master Control 1000 is so fun. Many on the show and in the chat and around this watch community have looked at these pieces before and have found them really captivating for different reasons. Now, look, if you have to squint at the watch, it looks like this piece has been through a boxing match. One eye is swollen and closed. The other eye is very expressive. The mouth is wide open. Could look like it's being probed. But all in all, I think for a dress watch especially, there's something to say about the size allocation and the complication on top of it. Excuse me for a sec. I've got to take a breath. All right, I'm back. There's something to say about the size allocation and what is occupying the dial, and this is amazing. Not the cheeriest of dials. Looks like it has been battered a little bit. Huh? Yeah, that just came off the top of my head now. Can't unsee that now. Yeah, don't look at the Jean Centigraph, whatever you do, because you will you'll have flashbacks of it in a different sense. It's got a very peculiar expression to its face. Lots to love about JLC, Russell. I agree. I do agree. And just simple things like, you factored in the power reserve that's offset here. It doesn't look jarring because the dial is occupied by so many other things. You've got the dates, you've got the running seconds. You've also got quarter Arabics, which is a nice touch. One of my favorites is just the standard master control with the date at the 3 o'clock position. It's so elegant with the numerals on the 3 quarters, and then you have the date at the base. Really nice. Okay, going to get into the chat. Funny, we're going to be looking at a radiomere in a second. Dinner was excellent. Truth is, welcome back. JLC and Breguet are so good at making dials that could by all rights be an asymmetrical mess. Look really good. And funny that the Breguet that we're going to look at later is just clean. There's nothing on it, but I agree. I think Breguet was one of the makers that truly defined this area, especially English watchmaking and Breguet of that time. We're talking 1700s. They really capitalized on the idea of asymmetry and just how these peculiar dials can be arranged so nicely. Okay, now that I'll buy a round JLC. Oh, not that I'll buy. Okay. Drunken JLC. I mean, here we go. This JLC's been on a night out, clearly. Has been bottled on the side of the head. It's pretty funny. The F-Fusion Centigraph looks back at you. It sure does. Really expressive. Stunning. I mean, they also have examples of these in yellow gold and rose gold too, and there's just so much to enjoy. If I had to go down the dress watch route, this is the kind of piece I'd be looking at. In fact, Breguet would probably be the example for me, just because of that history tied to it, as well as the way they address asymmetry. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And these are great value for money. Another good thing to point out. Power reserve, sub-date, sub-seconds. When you think of the much higher tier, put that in quotation, brands, you're paying double the price. This is very good for what you're getting. It's amazing. I can't believe we're still sticking to the theme of dress watches. Windscreen wiper, power reserve. Al, you nailed it there. That's so good. Okay, moving through to Jonas. Javier, loved your pieces. Thanks for sharing them with us. Jonas sends in a selection of interesting pieces. I don't think this had nothing to do with the theme of dress watches yet. I hadn't specified it to the community, but this came in... hold on a sec. I'll get to that question in a second, Aranja. This came out like a week before the show aired. So this is some backlog emails that I've saved and prepared. And I love the pairing here. We have a 104, I believe, Zen 104. Beautiful Seamaster on the right-hand side. I've never seen that arrangement before. And then a radiomere, Black Seal. So the Aranja asked me, am I still pre-gay? I love that. I love that. Nice wordplay you have there. Yeah, you have to get Breguet. You have to get it on the gray market if you can. I think that's the question you're asking. And an ARDR says that Breguet is my choice of dress watch. Yeah, it would be for me too. There's just so much to enjoy. The coin edging on the case, the lugs, and there's just the history to the name, I think, is what really brings me in. So the watch that is highlighted here for the show is the Radiomir. Some of the best lume in the business, I think, just supremely cool. And we think back to the dress watch and adding that as the theme on a leather strap, technically, if we want to be like really pedantic, could be defined as a dress watch in a way. It's an old design that still looks relative today. And after the craze these watches had in the 90s, it still works. It still very much looks relevant. Cushion case of its time. You look at that crown and you think, yeah, sums it up pretty nicely. I love how they've done this arrangement too, with the sub dial at the 9 o'clock position. It's really clean, great lume. I thought these were dress watches, Panerai. Surely not a dress watch. Zin 104, nice, but not a dress watch. Oh, Mason, if you've just joined us, the last 120 minutes, we have covered a truckload of dress watches in all areas. Like, it's just difficult to explain in a couple of sentences. And David says the dress watch world would, hold on a sec, has so much value for the discerning eye. Breguet, JLC, I agree. Do agree. I love it. And we're not done yet. We've got a couple more really cool examples of those later on. So yeah, thought this would be fun to chat about the Radiomir. Also, I think the size of this watch is pretty good. I would imagine it's like a 42, maybe 44 mil diameter altogether, 24 lug width. Great. Talking about dress watches, hell, what the hell? We're going into the modern space. That ain't no dress watch. It's great. It is really great. Nice arrangement. I do like how it's presented nicely. And there's a couple here, like our man Thomas, digs his Panerai. And I'm just wondering, will the brand ever find its footing again in the space? Will people jump back on these pieces? I think a couple of tweaks to their design approach could make a serious dent and impact. But that's just me. I still love them. I love all watches from these eras just because of that history tied to them. There's so many little facets that we can enjoy about. This was the original dive watch before dive watches became mainstream. I mean, let that sink in. 1930s, Rolex movements. It's great. Seriously cool. Pam destroys all dress cuffs. Sure does. Love the logo dial. It is nice. Very, very nice. The original little Panerai element there. Okay, can I carry on through? Jonas, thank you for this. We're moving to John next. Didn't really address, hold on, last thing. I did not address this really slick looking little Seamaster. I've never seen this dial arrangement before, but it's elegant, really nice. There's just something about the sharpness of the batons that gets me every time. This feels like a 60s era variant. And next to the Zin with a shark mesh strap, hey, works pretty well as an everyday going piece, dress watch of any sort. I don't know. But this is a cool looking arrangement. Love the subdial. Looks very similar to a Ranchero, but doesn't in a way. And it says Seamaster 30. So I'm imagining it's 30 meters water resistance, which is like zip in the scheme of things. Still great. Jonas, thank you. Jumping to John next. And okay, we're not talking about dress watches anymore. This came in a couple of weeks before the show aired. This being a government-issued marathon. Now, this is cool. Looking at the case, what is this case made out of? Is it ceramic? Is it plastic? Help me here, please, John, if you're with us still. Now, what makes these watches amazing? There's many things to take in. I mean, Marathon is one of the field watch manufacturers. They still make watches for the Canadian Forces and the American Armed Forces. But what makes these even more special is that they use tritium tubes, even today. Plastic. You're kidding me. That's so cool. Justin's saying Ranchero, car or truck. No, Ranchero as in that's how they defined the originals. You had the Seamaster, Speedmaster, Railmaster, and the Ranchero, all released in the 50s. And the Ranchero was the most unloved of the four, but also the cheapest, easiest to get hold of. Still today, you can find them for good prices. But that's another story. Probably the reason why is that the name Ranchero is a bit strange, considering that you have Railmaster, which is quite interesting, and Speedmaster and Seamaster, the two most important names that Omega has ever pushed forward. So it's most likely Cerakoted, Turbo says. I've done a polycarbonate. I would go by Thomas's recommendation because he knows these pieces pretty well. Polycarbonate. Uh, you can just judge by looking at the case material itself. Looks like John's been digging outside, going on a bit of an exploration. Tritium tubes, man. Love it. And the fact that it has this little radiation symbol there is so great. And of course, he is digging. How cool is that? He does also share a shot of the loom, and we can see it in all its glory. Yeah, so Marathon, there was actually a recommendation and question about great dive watches, great field watches in this category. And if you're based in the States, in that part of the world, look at Marathon and what they're doing. It's one of the few brands today that are still using tritium tubes, which is very nostalgic and also just amazing, as well as they have that very typical Americanized field watch design where you've got the 24-hour track inside. Lots of little facets to take in. And you've got the GMT bezel, which is, for either you love it or you hate it. Has he just timed how long it takes to bury a body or something? Maybe. Could have been. He hasn't been using the bezel for the function, so it's hard to tell. Maybe John can let us know in the chat. That's great. It looks Cerakoted. Don't know. Don't even know where to start. I love the color, though, don't you? Why don't more watches have this khaki finish to it? It's kind of baby sick brown. Don't know how you would explain it. And then the strap also pairs very nicely. It's just cool. Seriously, seriously cool. Watch by Design. Marathon cases are actually a tough resin. A tough resin. Our man Watch by Design knows this stuff very well too. So there we go. A resin, polycarbonate resin, plastic, whatever it is. It's a plastic of some kind. 29 minutes. It took him 29 minutes to bury the body. How's that? How is that? That's pretty good, considering, I mean, it's a big hole you're digging, roughly 6 feet long. And then getting to that depth, good effort. And it looks like what you used was a small hand trowel. It wasn't anything. So talk about a workout. Good job. Hope you swapped out your hands. You don't want your right hand getting too big. That's funny. Okay, well, 29 minutes, impressive. Congrats there, John. Let's just say it's not steel, BDev. Yeah, I agree. Okay. And just so cool. John, thank you for sharing this with us. I'm going to carry on to our man, Juan. He sent in some cool stuff. I wouldn't say not all of it is dress related, but he did send in a handful that are really nice. Okay, I'm going to start with a bit of an outlier. G-Shock. This has nothing to do with dress watches, but I thought, this is one of his first G-Shocks, I think. And what the hell? Our man, Eric, could maybe indicate what this example is. Is it the range man? Is it the frog man? Is it the deaf man? Sound man? I don't know. Sniper man? Please let me know what this piece is. And we can carry on. Maybe I'll be able to see it. Moon phase man, maybe. Or fishing gear man. Fish moon, what the hell? So this is like a fishing watch. This is like something that gauge. I don't even know where to start. Dress G-Shock. Shock G, is that what they call these? I don't know. There's another one that's just come out. I was actually a question asked of me, my opinion on Mr. G. There's a G-Shock that's come out called Mr. G, and when I see that, it's MRG or something. There's this TV series that came out in like the early 2000s called Summer Heights High. It's an Australian series. It's the funniest thing you will ever see. And one of the main, if you just Google Mr. G, it'll be the first thing that comes up as a result. It's one of the funniest. I would highly recommend watching Summer Heights High if you can find it. Mr. G is a real character. I'll say that much. Any of my Aussie friends out there, I think you might know what I'm talking about. Son of a G, is that real? Good point. I still don't know what the name of this is. Does it have sonar? Maybe it does. I don't know, but it's huge and it doesn't really fall into the dress watch category. But then if you think of the modern watch that we wear today, hey, this does fit that, the Ali G. That'll be next. Tell you when to fish. Watch by Design says, my 41mm Marathon G-Stop, best to watch 300. They are good. And price-wise, also very impressive. US military issued. Thank you for that. Curtis, it's awesome to know. That Aussie show is outrageous. It's so good. Just watch it, please, by all means. Summer Heights High, 3 words. Okay, moving away from the Mr. G or whatever this shock is, we're going to carry on. The Mudman, maybe it is. I don't even know where to start. Fish and chip finder. You know what? Excellent in Brighton, he mentions. Got to say, the South Coast, pretty well stocked on fish and chips. Yeah, so there we go. It basically locates the best spot for fish and chips on the South Coast or wherever you're based. Okay, radar. Don't even know where to start. Thank you for that, Juan. Moving next to a completely different animal that I think will both attract a lot of attention, love, and derision. I called it the Hulk. I mean, the naming of these things, the Kermit, the magic green, the green dragon. Should we call it Puff the Magic Dragon from now on? Lots of things to take in about this watch. I mean, there's a couple of gents in the chat have picked up this piece recently, and congratulations. Little chippy. I'm loving these chats. Yeah, Summer Heights High is so good. Just watch it. You'll laugh your head off. Just thinking back, it was like early 2000s. I remember seeing it in high school, going through high school, and it was just, I think I watched the series 3 times over because it was just, it's all one actor. This guy does all the skits himself, and he dresses up as like a effeminate teacher and a dropout kid in school. Oh, so funny. Is his name Jonah Takalua or something? I can't even remember. Was that a different series? I can't remember. Okay, yeah, carry on. So Justin says, don't tell Megan about this, likely lose her mind. Yeah, she hates this watch. A lot of us, I mean, I'm also one who's really not a fan of the green bezel on these pieces, but don't tell anyone. I mean, there's only 170 people watching. Don't tell anyone, but green bezels for me on these pieces. But as far as presentation goes with the case design, and they've really nailed it. The 41 mil is superb. Hans is in the chat. Hans, welcome to the show. I've just spotted you. Great having you here. I hope you are in good shape. Thank you for joining us. So talking about the dress watch again, somehow, where does this sit? Don't know. What we do know is it's the most sought after, we could say, in the Submariner category today. And yeah, Mark has this watch in his collection. I remember that. Cool piece. Don't know. The question we have to ask is, will it last the test of time? We've seen how the original Kermit with the aluminium bezel is going. How will this work next to it? And of course, Juan sent some amazing shots where he's based. I might take him up on an offer he has sent me, so that'll be something in the next few months, possibly, maybe. Page of writing on the dial. You know, it's terrible to say, but one of the things I start criticizing now, I've got a problem. Obviously, I have a problem, right? When I look at a watch dial, one of the first things I do is look to the text and I look to the hands. And I say to myself, are these hands too stubby? Are they too long? Are they too short? And some watches just don't do it for me. The idea of the hand, I can understand why this hand is short. It's because it needs to line up with the baton. But I'm going to just scroll up again. Pardon me, going all the way up to the beginning again. I look at these two watches and just judging by, okay, sorry that I have to go back to the beginning. Judging by these two watches, looking at the hands, the length of the hands, and the script on the dial, it's another reason why I love them so much. Got nothing to do with the design. It's just the arrangement of everything. It's strange. I mean, I've really gone deep. Omega automatic, Longines automatic. There's a trend. There's a theme to this. I don't know. I'm a madman. Jumping back down to Juan and his Hulk. Sorry, Kermit. This paragraph of information. Love it or hate it. It's a thing. Cool. The presentation. You can't get a better shot of this watch, I don't think. He's just nailed it in the lighting. Okay, now let's get to a really cool piece. He picked this up recently. I don't know. I can't remember what this is. It is a Prince. Back to dress watches. Oyster Prince. This just worked out perfectly. I did not ask him to send dress watches. This just came in the mail along with a lot of other pieces. This is dress today. No, David, no, it's not. No. What happened is that a lot of these emails came in a week before the actual show was thought through. So we have hit and missed some of these areas. So you notice that there are a couple of sports pieces with dress watches. He just sent this in on a whim. He just picked up this watch. And the reason why he loved it, this is definitely not everyone's piece, but he loved it because it speaks to him. Like, he has so many vintage Hamiltons, vintage Buddhas, pieces that all have that rectangular form factor. And he thought, within the Rolex camp, this is just ideal for what he likes. And it's such a strange beast. It's got a sub-seconds at the base, 369. It looks exactly the same as what we would expect from an Explorer or Air King dial. Love the Gondolo stepped case. If our man Curtis is still watching, if anyone loves the Gondolo, This is the closest you'll get in the Rolex category. That's really nice. And the best part of all is that he sent shots of the clasp, which is cool. Also, I don't even know the age of this piece. I really don't know if it's 90s or if it's, I would imagine early 2000s. How crazy different is this clasp? And then also having it open. I don't even know how it works. It's a double deployant. How's that? Okay, I'm learning new stuff here. So this little gadget goes into that hole over there, and it's spring loaded and really nice. And we've got another shot of the movement. Sorry, the dial. We're gonna have a look at the movement in a second. It's such a strange beast. I mean, whether you love it or hate it, it's bizarre, but I can understand why he loves it. And Chili Badger says, very nice 30s styly. He loves watches from the 30s. He has all the different reversos of that era, so makes sense. And this is most definitely the most outlier in this category of dress watches. After 2 hours, 15 minutes of chatting, this is a crazy, weird beast. Small seconds hand has an arrow tip. You're kidding. Oh, wow. Good point there. Who was that? James Con. Let's get right in. It actually has an arrowhead. How nice is that? Never see that. It's talking about rule of thirds and, golden ratio and all of that stuff. You see how it's been cut. Not exactly a third of the space, but close. And has red accents. It's a crazy, strange example. Let's have a look at the movement. Manual wind. Look at that finishing. How is that? You would swear this watch is from 1930. And I really like that feature. In a second, we're jumping to a Vacheron, which is going to be very nice to look at. Movement and everything too. He just picked it up recently, and there's a bit of a funny story behind it. I'll hold on this while taking another hit from the... Should I hit the sherry? No, coffee. Keep on the coffee. I'll call that a small seconds. Yep. Prince will auction well in 2040. You think so? Because they really haven't... Of course, this is a part of the Cellini line too. Forgot to mention that. They really haven't seen as much attention. And you can still get them today. They're pretty easy to find. Shytown, welcome. We've had a hell of a show up until now. 2 hours, 2.5 hours almost. You've missed a lot. Funny enough, we've kept to the theme of dress watches throughout, which is crazy. Look how good that finishing is. Huge mainspring there. Yeah, it looks great. And then, okay, let's move on next to the Vacheron that he sent in. Now, this has a good story. It took me a while to actually find the name of this piece. How beautiful is this? Again, I did not ask him to send dress watches. This all came in by accident a week before the time. So this example is called, let me get this right, it's a traditional, right? Let's see, what did I call it? Surely I gave it a name. Hold on. Nope, nothing. Dumbass. So just call it a Vacheron traditional. The story goes with this is that he's been asking the AD for a long time to get this. He said spent a year trying to get this watch, and for the price that he wanted. Of course, he did lowball in a lot of areas to get this watch, and he wanted it under retail, but the staff wouldn't budge. But having dead stock was costing them more than the discount he wanted. So he ended up getting the watch for the discount eventually. Pretty funny story. So having the stock in the showroom, not moving it, costed more than the discount that he wanted overall. And it's an awesome example. Very seldom do we see these models in the, I think it's a Patrimony Traditional, something or other. I can never keep track. You never see these examples with the sub-seconds at the 9. You always see them at the base. Very seldom do you see the date at the 3 position either. Shaitan asking, did your email get me? It might have, I don't know. I probably missed it if I didn't save it. It'll be saved. It'll be used next week, though. Next show, it'll be featured. Don't worry, whatever it is. Somehow we've managed to keep to dress watches this week, which is just bizarre. Don't worry, Shaitan. It will be carried over into the next show. It's a beautiful example. I love the fact the only watch that we haven't featured, and I don't think we're going to, is AP. We have gone through, we're still not finished, but we've gone through like 5 Langes. We're going to go through at least 7. We've gone through Vacherons. There's some more Vacherons coming up later on. And lots of Pateks too. I love it. It's crazy how this theme of the show has actually been consistent. Amazing. The Harrods one is nice. I've never seen that before. Not a first choice for me. Definitely not for everyone. The Patrimony line has many alterations to its form. Still, looks good. Black date wheel for the win. Gotta love it. Gotta love that difference. And if I'm not wrong, the rail track is also black on the outside. So you've got gray That is, look at that. Gray and then the black accent and then gray again. Really nice. Applied logo. Looks good. Quarters are a little bit longer. That's typical to their patrimony traditional elements. Blancpain they do make great dress watches. Unfortunately, no features of them this week. We have before. In fact, I think we did have a Le Mans Perpetual the other week. I think it was actually the last show. Go check it out. No Jules Audemars. No, sadly not this week. Okay, next up we've got his movement shot. Look at that thing. Wow, Vacheron and their movements. Mark, I hope you're enjoying the movement of your overseas that you just picked up today. Again, if anyone's new to the chat, Mark, who's in the chat, well, he might have fallen asleep. It is like 12:30. He picked up an overseas Gen 3 this week. Today, should I say, 6 hours ago. And it's just a gem. Look at that movement. I love the finishing on that balance. That's the one thing that just draws your attention. It's stunning. Really stunning. Vacheron is so underrated as a brand. Just insane. And David's saying, wow, just wow. Now that is a cool dress watch for today. There have been some good things. I mean, let me try and go back to a few before we go ahead. A great standout that I noted is a 6119 that came up at one stage. This is the latest, and we're going to be seeing another one of these by the end of the show with a graphite dial. It looks amazing. It's been good. I mean, Calatravas, here's an example from Attis, got a Saxonia sub-seconds. The cover photo, of course, is the 1815, just an absolute gem, and we're not done yet. By the end of the show, you're going to see so many more. Yeah, it's been good. I'm really impressed by how we've actually kept to some theme. Mark is still admiring the watch. Great. AU 750. Can't go any worse there. And Russell says, loves the 6119. Sorry that you missed it earlier, Russell. We're going to be seeing another awesome one in a second, though, so hold on. Really great. Thank you for these, Juan. Beautiful example. You can never go wrong with AU 750. 750. Obviously being 75% gold. Okay, carrying on to his wife's Yachtmaster. This was a very good point. We don't feature ladies' watches as much as we should on the show. And the reason why I saved it, not that it's very much themed into this area, but I think as far as a ladies' sports watch goes, there's something amazing about this example of the Yachtmaster. I think he bought it for her about 5 years ago. He said in the email. So it has a platinum bezel, right? If I'm remembering right. And it's 35 millimeters, so it's an excellent size. And as far as a versatile all-wearing piece, it's so great. I really, really like it. And truth is, even the 25%, you really don't like Rolex, truth is. Yachtmaster and Daytona make great women's watches. They do. They are very flashy next to the more subtle sports pieces, but I think the size, 35 mils, as far as I know, it's 35. It could be 37. There's so many examples. This one especially, the gray on gray, superb, really clean. So thank you for sharing that, Juan. Chatting about dress watches, this also, I think this is the only Yachtmaster we're featuring, also makes for a very good example there. Okay, going to carry on through. Juan, thank you for this. Jumping to Julian next. Julian, I don't know if you're still in the chat with us, but this is an example of a Grand Seiko. Hold on, here it comes. SPGX 341. Right, rolls off the tongue. Being a 9F quartz, as most of us know, that's their jam. 200 meters water resistance with a 40,000 amperes per minute, right? It's quite a lot of resistance it has there. Why don't they use ohms? Is there something about ohms and amperes that they decide not? I would much rather have, maybe there's like a legal thing with adding ohms on the dial, the omega symbol. I'd like to know if any scientists are in the chat, let me know. Why do they use amperes and not ohms as a measure of resistance? Great looking piece though. And this is one of, there's another 2, 3. Oh, there's so many watches still. What are we doing? It's been, 2.5 hours. Okay. Keeping to time pretty well. Ampere per meter. Okay. Grand Seiko is no. Truth fears you're on fire. I love it. It's great. It's really great. Yeah, so chatting about Grand Seiko as a brand, they really are doubling down on their 9F quartz, which is amazing because they really are the most accurate course movements that you can get out there today. And the GMT, I mean, we actually chatted about this at one stage on the Hort Take. excellent live stream channel, if I do say so myself, next to Watch Talk with the Punters, two brilliant, and Bobby Legs, and it could continue going on. Grand Seiko seems to be defining themselves by the 9F quartz and the GMT, because that's just what they're digging into so much now, especially. Yeah, talk about Tudor. We actually had one at one stage, Black Bay 58. We will, I'm sure there's another one, isn't there? Maybe, not this time. But we did have a Black Bay 58 at one stage. Tudors are featured every week on this show, so don't worry. If you missed it, there's always next week. There's always a lot more to cover. Okay, carrying on through. I'm going to move on to Kevin next. Julian, thank you for sending this in. Let's have a look. Prospex. Funny enough, another Seiko. That's how we do it. Kevin sends in this latest reference that I will not remember. It's an SPB 149150. I don't know. But this watch just was launched, and this has become quite the hype machine on the platform, on social circles too. So first time having a white dial, and also added a baton at the date, which is a nice element. I really hope my chat is keeping up. Hold on a sec. I'm going to have to refresh the stream on my laptop. Junior Johnson, thank you so much. Happy Father's Day tomorrow, of course. Yes. And if you're leaving us, pleasure having you here, Junior. Really, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and for the super chat, man. Really, such a joy. I love doing these. These shows are always a good blast, good fun discussing these examples. And yeah, we've just jumped to Seiko all of a sudden, and now we're looking at. Funny, we're going to be looking at a SPB 143 later on. I think this has a ceramic bezel, which is something also new. Definitely not a dress watch in this space, but something to commend, something to appreciate. And BS saying that would be a great topic for Father's Day. Heirloom watches. Ooh. Speaking of which, you won't believe this. This is called Serious Coincidence. The next watch we're looking at is an heirloom Vacheron. Vacheron from 1974. It's a beautiful dress piece. So we'll get on into the second. So Kevin, congratulations. You did say that this is one of his first pieces in this area, and he was lucky enough to pick it up. I think these have all sold out now because of the arrangement. These models are great. I'm going to chat about my one in the next few weeks, I think, and just where I sit with it and how it's been over the last couple of months. Unfortunately, not ceramic. This is the same Kevin, so it's not. What do they finish this with? I mean, it looks like it's polished. I don't know. Must be some coating they add on top of the steel, maybe. Interesting, though. And I've got to say, the colorway is very nice. I think what they could have done to spice it up a little bit more would be to add accents around the polished, if it was like a black polish painting, similar to how they did the second hand around all of these plots. It might jazz up the presentation a little bit more. My 2 cents, that's the first thing that comes to mind, at least. Still, looks awesome. Really does look nice. Kevin, thank you for sharing this. Let's jump back to dress watches again. Why not? Okay. Chrono Craze. Let's have a look at the watch in the photo first, if I can find it. There it is. A 1974 Patrimony. His dad's watch. I don't remember the full story. He gave me a proper description of this, but it was his dad's watch that he had for all his life. It's in all the photographs. And talk about an heirloom. This is so cool, man. So cool. Chrono Craze has an amazing, amazing collection of watches. And this one, I mean, talk about something that's been passed down to you. Oh, it's so great. There's just something about the 70s era dress watch that hits differently. You know, the extremely thin pencil hands. Everything was about thinness and just attention to detail and subtlety. As far as dress watches go, this epitomizes it. And I love the fact that there's a story attached to it too. The burgundy strap is great. There's also another shot of it on the, oh, look at that. Amazing. Chrono Craze, if you're still with us, you normally are on these chats sometimes. I love it. Such a cool story, and especially the fact that it actually falls into the theme of dress watches. And Koji, I just see you in the chat. We are jumping to you next with your JLC Chrono, which is going to be good. So cool. We've been looking at Saxonias and other examples. This is just another one of those pieces that sums up the subtlety of the dress watch of its time. Had a look at that Omega Seamaster earlier on, the beginning of the show. Really nice. Love it. And this is an heirloom. Worked out well, right? BS, your prayers were answered. Yeah, again, it's an amazing story, and it's something to really remember your dad by, which is the best thing of all, I think, at the end of the day. 35 mils by the look of it, with a 20 mil lug width. Yeah, there's just something great about that size and everything else. So really, Congratulations. To inherit a piece like this is just stunning. I would imagine it's white gold. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but just great. So moving on next to Koji. And let's have a look at the presentation of this watch. Now, from the 1940s. This is not a JLC, excuse me. This is just a Jaeger. It's not a Le Couture, it's a Jaeger or Jaeger, or however you want to say it. Can you explain is this an 18 karat? I would imagine it probably is. And you can just see this is a 40s era watch. There are many little factors like the subdials being set inside, the telemeter scales and all that weird stuff. They were really jazzing around back then. Of course, having a telemeter scale is pretty practical when you've got artillery firing at you. Just a beautiful example. And again, I mean, look at this photograph. This was also a top contender for a cover photo, by the way, Koji. I mean, how can it not be? Love it. So you're a musician. I think you're a violinist or a cellist, if I remember right. Correct me. Help me out. You did say it's 18 karat. JJ Lecoute. History was made that day. Look at the lugs on this. That's something that's just stood out to me for the first time. It's a stepped lug, but on the inside. That's just bizarre. Yeah, it's amazing. And the watch is like what? 30 millimeters in size, 33 mils. Oh, there we go. Chrono Craze. White gold 33. Welcome, by the way. If it's measured correctly. Weighs a bit larger, like a 34. It's just great. So nice. Again, thank you for sending it in. It just worked perfectly for the show. How strange are these lugs? Stepped in. They look like index fingers. You know, you're pointing at something. Really like it. And of course, we have to appreciate the movement, which I did not save. I did not save the description. Is it also a Valjoux-based movement, or is it a Lemania? Please let me know. It's just incredible to think that this watch is from the 1940s and still looks so relevant today. There's little facets to these things that always stand out. Yeah, love it. Did I miss something from Koji saying, I'm a concert pianist? Close enough, right? Which is a pretentious way of saying I'm unemployed at the moment. Go. Yeah, piano was where I cut my chops with instruments. Congratulations. I mean, it's a hell of a skill. And do you play grands or baby grands, or what pianos have you played? I'd love to know. Steinways, Yamahas. What's your poison? Again, talking about unemployment, it's going to be changing soon. Don't worry. It's going to be changing soon. This world seems to be waking up to a few things. Seems like we're back on track in many ways. So it's a Universal Geneve 281 movement. Thank you for that, Koji. I would love someone to produce a remake of this style of chronograph, telemeter scale overlapping. Wouldn't that be cool? You could probably do it. I mean, I could reach out to a micro brand like Undone Watches, say, and they could probably fill in that gap. It's funny that you don't get telemeter scales anymore on pieces. I guess it's just not as important as it used to be back in the day. Still, I love it. It's just one of those things. Judging the speed of sound is important, you know, day by day. And hold on a sec, there's more. Oh, he was there. There's the piano. Thank you for this, Koji. A linen dial of your Le Couture. So we just had a look at a Jaeger, and now we're looking at a Le Couture. You did send in a few more shots, I think, but I trimmed down the selection just for the sake of, I don't know, timekeeping. I try and keep it within like 100 or so watches in the selection. Hobnail dial, which is very nice. I love that aspect. Also, just enjoy the subtlety of, look at the size of those hands. It's crazy. Yeah, I love it. Just love it. Talking about pianos, I'm a Yamaha artist. Awesome. Okay, let's have a look. But my favorite pianos are vintage Mason and Hamlin's pre-war. Mason and Hamlin's, don't even know, are they English made, or are they German made, or love to know more. Dan Henry could do this. It's a good point. BDev and Wristwatch Experience are saying the same thing. Thanks for giving those specifics, Koji. That's awesome. Yamaha, they make some really good stuff. And carrying on, sleeve friendly, it sure is. Chatting about the thinness, that was something we discussed earlier on at the beginning of the show, the thickness of the watch, how it works under the sleeve. These are the epitome, the archetype of the dress watch in this space. So Chrono says, I think we were out of sync. I was adding chats while you were asking. Sorry, yeah, I might have missed them. My laptop was actually doing had a little spinny gadget, so the internet was obviously trying to catch up this side. I must have missed it. And it's Boston made. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Boston made pianos. I mean, that was a big thing, right? During the American Revolution and those periods, they were making some amazing instruments. I love it. I actually studied the harpsichord history too, and that was also fascinating. Okay, enough about music. Carrying on. Koji, thank you. We're jumping to Mark next. Now, this is the thing. We've had Mark P, we've had Mark L that we're looking at now, and then we have Mark B next. We've got 3 marks. Helps to give them their surname as attached to their arrangement. This is a stunning Grand Seiko. This is the reference SPGX 061 from Mark L. This is what I think epitomizes Grand Seiko. I don't think he sent this in because of the dress watch theme. Just another happy accident that this watch is featured. Yamaha does have some amazing motorcycles too. Yeah. It's just so good. It's great. And chatting about instruments again, Thomas is chatting about grade 8 and everything there. Tell you, practicing and learning, oh God, my days. When it came to studying piano, it was all just about playing the song by ear. For reading music, I'm terrible at it. Should pick it back up again. Should really try and learn music now, a couple of years later. You can't not appreciate these dials. Beautiful. Chi-Town, this to me is just exceptional. Still, what I don't understand is why they have to have Seiko and Grand Seiko in the same space, but this is one of the originals, I believe. So I guess they did feature it there, but they could do a lot more with reducing down. Oldie but goldie. So I'm right, Tiny Stacker. This is one of the first generations. I mean, if I had my way, I'd get rid of the Seiko name, put the GS at the 12, clean and clear, done and dusted. Isn't it amazing that they've defined their watches so well by the use of their hands and their quarters? They just even the type for their date window is correct. So nice. And he's paired it with a perfect shirt and everything there too. I love it. Mark, excellent shot. This was also a top contender for the cover. I learned by ear as a kid too. Did not learn to read music until around 10. Yeah, Koji, I gave in completely by the age of 12. I just couldn't stand it. Going to lessons and all of that was just too much for me. It's funny. I mean, music is supposed to be enjoyed. And when you're being forced to do these things, it just ruins the experience. That was always it for me. The idea of having to do homework for music just turned me off it completely. So I just went my own way and taught myself whatever came across. And yeah, love it. Still avid guitar playing. Don't have space in the house that I'm in for a piano, but you know what? It's still great. I miss my piano. Future topic, museums, musicians and their watches. BDev, good point. That could be good fun. We have actually featured a lot of guitars, and we've had cellos in the past, I think, and violins. I think we've also had a saxophone at one stage. Just amazing. Like I love the themes attached to watches a lot of the time. Mark, beautiful Grand Seiko, such a nice presentation. An excellent example for the sake of it being a dress watch. This fits all the right categories. Black and blue, it's the way to go, right, Nicholas? Thank you for that. Okay, carrying on to Mark B. Now, he just sent in these as project watches. This is also like 2 weeks before the show even aired. But this, he calls it the Air Master. He's taken all sorts and just thrown them together. So he's got a Yachtmaster bezel, super case, Air King dial, Milgauss hand, and he just said, hey, this is how you do it. So this was a bit of a parts bin special that he put together. Barry Manilow, Hans. I recognize that. Yeah, cool. Really interesting piece. Just so bizarre. I mean, imagine if Rolex did rock one of these, just dropped this. Milgauss hand, Air King, Yachtmaster, super case. Like, what the hell is going on? So, this is on the project. He put an ETA movement inside this just to have a good time. We've had a couple of project watches featured on the show before, but there's so many layers to peel apart on this. There sure are. I mean, just imagine you've got a shark mesh bracelet on it as well. I think he said that he's going to be getting rid of the shark mesh because it just doesn't make sense to him, the shark mesh element. He wants to add a leather strap and all that. Yeah, got some more Barry Manilow going on in the chat. And then the next watch he sends in is what he called, the name is RZE Endeavor. Yellow dial. And he said that this is a brand, a micro brand, that is just not getting the attention that he thinks it deserves. So take this in. This reminds me, looking at the dial, kind of reminds me of the Yema, what's that new Yema diver that they've just brought out? Skin diver arrangement. I look at the batons and they have similar features to them there, Also just love the fact that it's fully brushed. Look at the lugs. Look at all those elements, the connecting joints in the middle of the bracelets. I know our man Thomas would love the yellow accents. It's really nice. The maker is RZE, if you're interested. Jeez, like, I'm not taking enough breaths. It's actually crazy how how much I can talk in such a short frame of time. And the room I'm in is not that big, so like oxygen deprivation is real. Pretty nifty dial. Yeah, definitely stands out, right? It's adventurous. Look at the 5. Hold on. What am I seeing here? Look at the 5. Looking at the 5. Are we talking about the 0? The 0.5. See, some brands know how to do it. You want to match the 0.5 with the 55. Yep, got it. Makes sense. Does make sense. Superman with the scales bracelet. Yeah, I mean, that's the latest. That's 63. That's an amazing piece, right, Thomas? No, what was that example? I'm trying to think. It's a navigator or something. I can never get the names right. But it's also a part of the Superman line with these baton arrangements. It's also funky colors. Miles Davis did wear a Breitling Navitimer B-Dev. I agree. So, Mark, thank you for sharing these. We're going to be carrying on. We're about to hit the 3-hour mark almost. I'm going to jump next to Martin. Really enjoyed your project piece. Keep sharing more of those. I really enjoy the project watches. It's good to have a look at what guys are getting up to behind the scenes. To Martin with a Maurice Lacroix. I can never get the name right. Maurice Lacroix, Maurice Lacroix, Maurice Le something. Really slick piece. Moon phase, date. These watches are not, they're not picking up steam next to so many others, but there's a lot to take in here. I do like the presentation of this a lot. A massive sector dial. Navigraph. That's it, Thomas. Thank you. So it's the Yemen Navigraph. That's what that dial reminded me of. Breitling Navitimer. Awesome watch. Dan the Watchman says last watch, 3-hour mark. Damn. Actually, we're actually doing very well for time. It's technically been 2 hours 42 minutes. Thank you, Omega Metas Accuracy. It's so useful. I enjoy it's an awesome piece. The Navigraph is great. Yamaha's doing some amazing new stuff. So yeah, talking about a dress watch, this actually speaks to the Cellini line in many ways. I think Rolex Cellini, when I see the quarter Romans and the way the sector dial has been done and the moon phase, there are a couple of examples like that in the space before. Date window is nice. And at an angle, this is something that I was quite surprised. They actually stamp the name into the leather. It's quite an interesting feature. It's like it's adding that extra element to it altogether. I don't know if that's the case back sticker or if that's a flare in the background there, but still. Chatting about low slung dress watches, I think these are pretty good value for money, especially what you're getting. I don't know much about the brand, but I think they're in that entry level space. How could I compare it? What's another brand that does similar? The top of my head. Come on, think. It was on the tip of my tongue and I just lost the name. Someone can maybe help me out. I had it and I lost it. Similar category though. They do same watches in this zone, if I'm not mistaken. Taking a hit from the coffee again. Got to shout down Frederic Constant. That's exactly it. Frederic Constant, they fall in that same area. Maybe they're under the same banner. Are they in the same group? Baume & Mercier is another one. Vacheron Constantin has joined us. Welcome. Wow, we've featured a lot of your watches. We love your stuff, by the way. We've covered your overseas Gen 3 and a Vacheron Traditional. You guys really love overextending your descriptions of watches. That's the one criticism I'll say. Patrimony, Historique, Traditional gets a little bit long-winded at times, but still, we love your watches, Vacheron. Thanks for joining us. Wonder if it has peanuts inside. I don't know. It's awesome though. Martin, thank you for sending this. Next up, funny enough, we're going to be looking at a watch that has gotten some serious attention over the last few days. And it's talking about dress watches, this works pretty well, the Islander ISL 37. Now, as far as I know, this is from Mark at Long Island Watches. He has a new range of pieces that he's created. And love it. So the salmon dial, of course, being the thing that everyone's wanting to collect, and you won't believe it. In the next couple of, it's so funny. Mike is up at the moment. This is Mike's selection of pieces. Right next to him is Neferion, who's also sent in the same watch. This didn't happen by accident. This is a coincidence, pure coincidence. Anyway, carrying on. Manish Boy, good tune. Yeah, so I'm trying to, I don't know the full specification if it's running a Miyota. I would imagine it's a Miyota 9015 movement or something around there. I don't know what the brand is trying to represent. I do like the double batons at the 12, very AP-ish. I do like you can never go wrong with obelisk hands. But this is the one watch that everyone's trying to jump on and collect at the moment for many reasons. Long Island watches, I think this is his first time branching out to create pieces. I don't know the full extent of the story, but it's a micro brand, and Mark is quite the prominent YouTuber in the space with making pieces. So you know what, it's pretty good that he's getting out there and sharing his pieces with us here. I must say the watch is very sterile. Like, I would love to see maybe a fluted bezel or something attached to it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the full spec of this piece here. A 9000 series Miyota. Thank you, Roar of the Tiger. Long Island iced tea. So how's this for hilarity? We're jumping from Mike to Nefarion, and he shares the same of these. I want to look at these two. The Vario is a really cool piece too. And the last watch that Mike sent in was an SPB 143. I don't know if he's just picked this up, but this is the Seiko that we're all jumping on in this category. The gray dial, black bezel. Oh, there we go. An NH35. Thank you, ARDR therapy. Really cool. And as for these, awesome. Again, I'll say awesome workhorses. This, what's it, a 6R81 or something movement? No, 6R35. That's the one. It's at the bottom corner of the screen. I'll actually zoom in for you. It's nice that they actually designate their movements. These are great workhorses for watches. They have dire shield coatings on them, making them very scratch resistant, and many, many other factors. And chat, bring out the Salmon Fandango. Okay, let's have a look. So, Mike, thank you for sharing the Islander. Great shots, by the way. Nice attention to detail. We can see how the light plays on the dial. And if we move down to Nefarion, who shares the same watch, plus the Vario, we get to see how salmon dials are addressed differently. I made a video about salmon dials 2, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Who the hell knows? And in it, I think I addressed the color of salmon and what it means. The color on the left is much more correct to the salmon dial approach. It's like a yellowy orange color. It's not supposed to be pink. And there's this gray area between the two where we don't necessarily know exactly how it's done, but some are more yellow, some are more pink. That arrangement there. Skip the light Fandango. Yeah, gotta love it. I'm missing you in the chats again. It's nice the chats have slowed down a bit. I'm putting a lot of you to sleep, which is great, so I can catch up pretty easily. 2468, never too late. Hans, that's the way. And as for the dial of the Vario, I really like it. Got some guilloche work there. Got some open skeletonized needle syringe hands, which is cool. Love it. I do love it. And this arrangement is very 1950s, kind of, even earlier, we could say, the 1930s even. This 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 arrangement there. Stunning. Nice presentation. And you can see these two side by side. So as regardless of where you are collecting in the space, salmon dials seem to always attract attention. And they always go up in value, surprisingly, and they're always the most sought after. So you could do anything with salmon and get away with it, basically. If you're creating a micro brand, bring it out in salmon, and people will love it. Okay, love the open hands. They are really nice. Seldom you see open syringe hands. The only time you would is when the loom has fallen out of the originals, right? I love it. Really nice selection. Nefarion, I don't know if you've been with us, but awesome seeing the pieces that you shared. A bit Art Deco, for sure. Both of these pieces share that status, for sure. Okay, carrying on. Nefarion, thank you. Jumping to Steve next with a Bremont. The Bremont. Oh, this is the Hawking. Okay. I know this watch. So he borrowed this watch from a friend, I think, and he's just experiencing the family, the secret club of Bremont. And the many little things to take in that I like about this watch. Okay, so they call it the Hawking because it's supposed to be about the theory of everything and the Big Bang. There is, on the case back, I believe, there is a piece of Stephen Hawking's desk. I don't know why. I don't know why that was a thing. But you know what? There's a couple of other elements. I think there's like the night sky or something on the back of the watch. I can't remember all the elements. But as far as presentation goes, looking at the dial, I love the big date. That looks great. Sun travel. Hold on a sec. Sunlight travel. What? We have some formulas on this. I mean, how cool is that? You go into a science exam and you got all this degrees, 90 degrees London. It's good to know London. I don't know what does that have to do with anything. 270 times 10 equals a second. Okay. What? The degree of sunlight travel. So this is this supposed to be like a compass in a way? You're supposed to navigate. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I don't know if the subdial moves at all inside there, but that's quite nice. If that's the power reserve, or if that's a retrograde, again, this is me just sitting on the edge of my seat trying to come up with these. Big date's really nice though. You can never go wrong with those. Interstellar watch. I also just love. We were chatting about this earlier. There was a comment made. I don't know who said it, but as far as a tuxedo watch goes, you need the tuxedo dial Rolex to complete your attire. And this is a great example of a tuxedo watch. Actually, for all the stuff we give Bremont as a brand, I do love the colors. The presentation is nice. The speed of the black hole, is that what does, Eric? I really don't know. But that's pretty much it. Again, the case, the back of the watch has some very interesting features. I think I remember seeing Watchbox do a review of it a couple of years back. A little too gimmicky. It is for sure BS. I don't know what the deal is with all the description. I mean, the degrees and London at the 6. Oh, because it's made in London, of course. Okay. Right. Let's move on. Hawking radiation, Tom Robertson's biggest hit. Okay, moving on to some high horology once again. Back on track with the dress watches. Steve, thank you for sending this. I hope you're enjoying the experience. I'd like to know your thoughts on the experience, how it's been. To Tarek. Right. Oh my goodness, this is something else. This looks like a brand new piece too. I don't think that this is a new thing that they've done with their dials. This isometric guilloche. Oh my gosh. Right on. So I've just named it Breguet Classique. I don't know the names of these. The 5177, the 5711, the 5 something or other. Wow, this is so cool and just sums up what we like about Breguet. As for the isometric guilloche on the dial, let's chat about that for a while because that's very different to what we normally see. Squeaking chair is starting to wake up. She's been asleep for a while. Of course, we have the twin Breguet stamping, which is the engraving is such a nice secret signature that they do. Actually, Bobby Legs, if you're still with us, I'm sure I've put you to sleep by now, but Bobby Legs was chatting about this on his show at one point. And the guilloche is just, as we know, Breguet pretty much pioneered this area. As for the isometric arrangements, it's a love it or hate it thing. It's very modern. I say isometric because that's like the way you describe the 3/4 angle if you're looking at it from a technical drawing perspective. If you type in isometric on Google, you'll see that that's the top-down sort of look. You get to see everything in its three-dimensional form. And what I do like is that there's grades of hatching, which is basically the shading that they've done within these individual squares. I'm trying to spin the mouse. You see how much thicker it looks on this side, and it's, yeah. So they've actually adjusted the light play by hatching it horizontally and vertically, which gives it a 3D effect. I mean, only Breguet could do this. They are the masters of this stuff. So this is obviously their way of testing the water and cutting their chops doing this stuff. Really nice setup. And of course, it's not the most bizarre asymmetrical Breguet that we know. There's something to really admire about the typical classique, simple, no running seconds, no date, nothing, just all there. The power reserve might be on the case back, I hope, in the movement. Stunning. We're not done yet. We've got, as Thomas saying, showstopper. We've got a really nice selection. Tarek really nailed it this week with the watches he sent us. Cuboid. Is that what they call it, Russell? Cuboid guilloche. Kind of like that. Can't go wrong with Breguet. Nope. Does it have a coin edge bezel? Talking about around the case, they all do. I think that's their one defining trait that all their models have. The Cubert guilloche. God, is that what they call it, Mason? Thank you for that. Too far away towns. They're still talking about Stephen Hawking. Dialesque. Oh my gosh. Okay, now we're getting deep. Check this out. He sends in a shot of the set. I believe this is the set of watches that he has in his collection, and I freaking love it. I think the first show we ever did of Wrist Shot Week. You know, this is episode 28, I think. The first show we ever did, he shared at least three IWC Portugueses with us, and now what he's done is he's trimmed that collection to a point where he has one chronograph, which is awesome, on a deployant. Beautiful. This is the new addition to his collection, I would imagine. I mean, you can see how that, look how it works in the light. Simple, classic. And then we have two Moses. We have a Pioneer and we have an Endeavor, I believe. Or maybe they're both Endeavors. I can never get them right. An Endeavor small seconds and an Endeavor center seconds. Q-Boat is a reference to the 80s video game. Mason, sorry. I'm from the early 90s, so I missed that reference completely. Oh, it's just so nice seeing the selection. Talking about dress watches, he really delivered this week. Amazing. Turning Portuguese. It's like the MC Escher and the Q-Boat. Okay, thanks, Thomas. Again, went right over my head. I'm too much of a youngster. How nice is this arrangement? We have a silver dial, white dial. You can see that he has an affinity for blue. All of these watches share something blue. We have blue hands, blue numerals on the Portuguese, blue hands on the Breguet, blue everything on the Moser, and then awesome tobacco sunburst. Even the strap on this works so nicely. And of course, we get to appreciate the watch on wrist. I mean, it's so cool. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we featured a similar, I think the exact same model of this earlier on in the show from Megan. I don't know if this is a different one or if it's the same example. I recognize the tobacco burst. Maybe I've missed something somewhere, but just think that presentation is something else. Also, a top contender for cover photo material. Taking a hit from the coffee once again. Okay, and everyone's turning Portuguese. Hans is winking. You're right, Thomas. It was Escher. Completely flew over my head. But of course, we can't see these watches without looking at the movements. And let's have a browse. So let's start with the Breguet, since that's fresh in our head. So there's no power reserve indicator on the back, but God, that is something. That is so amazing. I didn't even notice. Look at that. They have secret signatures on the lugs. Oh, on each corner. So it's the reference 5967, I guess. That's the description of this. What has Russell said that I've missed? Megan has hairy wrists. Yeah, this is not her. We featured her earlier on. So chatting about the bridges and how they're arranged, we can see very separately how the Swiss approach works in different categories. They're similar but different. And I believe that these two watches have almost, no, they don't. They're very different. This is the more modern piece. This is the one with the brown tobacco dial. We've got a power reserve, which is nicely integrated. Beautiful gilt hallmarking, 26 rubies arrangements, very nice open work there. And then we jump to the earlier model, which is a lot like sparser, could we say, more sparse. I love it. Just such an interesting arrangement. Again, Tarek really, really nailed it this week with his pieces that he sent in. It's so, so nice seeing these elements. It's always good seeing movements. Funny enough, we haven't seen many movements of watches, of dress watches for the show. Normally, we feature them quite often, but this week it's been a bit slim. I guess we're focusing more on the aesthetics of these pieces. And everyone's chatting about vinyls and stuff. This is just like a completely different world for me right now. Again, I didn't grow up in the vinyl era either. Oh, it's awesome. Okay, gonna carry on through. Tarek, thank you for sending these. The presentation is something else. I want to double check. So this is the variant with the fume. And if I jump back up to the top, let's see if I can find the Moser. I do believe this is the same watch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Judging by the color of the dial, I think it is the same. Pretty amazing. We have two of the same watch, the same show. Okay. So Tarek, thank you. Going to move on to Thomas, watching World Finance. Where do we start with him? Should I show off the Calatrava? Should we look at the Endeavor? Okay, let's look at the Endeavor first. How is this? Just have a look at one. Here's another. Oh my, this is stunning. I don't know if he's with us. I probably have put him to sleep. He's based in this side of the world, so maybe he's awake. I have my doubts. I've never seen this arrangement before. Gold on gold Endeavor. And there's something about, this is an Endeavor, right? It's not a Pioneer. I can never get it right. There's something about having that 12 at the top of the dial that I love. Polyfume Hans. I don't know. Ashmosa surely know it. Yeah, they do. I love this arrangement. How nice is it seeing gold on gold with this? I've never. It's just a cut above. Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is stunning. This is probably one of the earliest generations of this watch, if I'm not wrong. Maybe someone can help me out. And there's another shot he sent. little bit more low res. It's kind of like a salmon dial. But this whole setup of having the 12 set there and the more defined sub-seconds dial, amazing. Yeah, this is Mozo and they're at their early stages, I think, when they really were cutting their chops, and they've done it. It's amazing what they've done. It's precious, Justin says. Yeah, and guys are chatting about music and technicians and Roar of the Tiger. It's great. Keep bantering away. Ring, ring. Can I speak to Stephen Hawking? This is Stephen Hawking. Got the answering machine. BDev, that's not very nice. This is Stephen Hawking. Yeah, the story behind his voice, he really liked the American accent. I mean, that was the original like translator that they had back in the day. Golden ticket. I mean, that's what we could describe this watch as. Thomas, if you're watching the show, this sums it up. Really is the golden ticket of this category. Okay, and the most recent pickup from him, I think our man Russell will be frothing when he sees this. He just secured the graphite. So, hold on a second. It's the 6119, right? 6119, and this is white gold. So it is. What is the name? It's not J. J is yellow. R. G. It's the G. There we go. Oh, it's so cool. I've never seen this. I didn't even know this existed. So this is your new hobnail arrangement, vertical graphite arrangement on the dial. And funny enough, we featured 2 Calatravas of the new form from the 2021 release, Watches and Wonders. Just so cool. I like this because it doesn't feel as classical, as old school as the other variants. Generally, when you have a white dial watch, it can feel pretty old-fashioned, where this steps into the modern light in a way with its color usage. And speaking of which, jumping to Russell's pieces in a moment, we're getting there quite soon. His 6007 and other examples do look good. You tried this on, of course. You were at Patek the other day. It's a really nice looking piece, a nice example. Dan says, if you get a chance, look up Duke of Ellington's 1563 Patek split second. God, that's the reference, 1563. Dan, I most definitely will. Thank you. Love referring back to these shows afterwards to catch some details that I might have missed. Looks interesting. I can see Truth Fears doesn't like it. He says, yuck. But Turbo's digging it. I really do find this to be peculiar. You just never see a graphite dial with a dress watch, and it conflicts with the age of it in a way. You can't really tell what era it's from exactly. But I love it. It feels very modern. Yeah, I'm using the word very a lot. I've got to actually stop. It's bad English. Just saw the Hodinkee article. Holy moly. Oh, did they just put something up? Okay, good. I'll definitely have a look. Subdial really works. I like it. I like it a lot. Very dress oriented. Dogbear is saying that this is my favorite. Yeah, I like it. I think I need to do a video about Patek's releases. Actually, no, Watch Report. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be chatting about the best releases of Q2, and we'll definitely highlight some of these, or maybe just do a talk around their launch of the Nautilus and the Aquanaut Chrono. They've done some good stuff this year. Really commendable. Love it. This is one of the standout pieces of the show for me too. There's something to say. This is one of the last submissions for the show as well. Something to say about how the color complements the material of the case and how it looks modern, classic, both ways. Really, really interesting. Thomas, thank you so much for these. We're not done yet though. Turbo, you're still in the chat with us. Yeah, so he was at the Lange boutique the other day, and you didn't actually specify if you picked this watch up. I don't think you did, but trying on the new triple split, it is something to behold. This came out this year, I think. Also released at Watches and Wonders, and it's that rose gold and blue that just works. Just works in so many ways. Yeesh. Russell, this might be the next one on your list. I would understand if you got this watch, Russell, considering your collection. I mean, you have a double. You don't have a triple. You've got a single, double. I think a triple would be a nice one to add. Never seen this one before. Yeah, it just arrived. As far as I know, it was just launched alongside another crazy, complicated model that they brought out. It's a heavy hitter, yeah. There's something that I like the most. The presentation, you can love it or hate it. It's not an 1815. It doesn't have numerals. It's more true to like the traditional Lange approach. but it's that combination. If you look it up online, the combination of rose gold and navy blue, just superb. Too big for me. Turn down the white gold. Is it a 44 mil? It looks pretty big. Maybe it's 42. Yeah. Triple split. So this is also an up. Oh no, come back. Oh no, I've just spoiled the surprise. This is an up down, right? Technically, it's an up down, and it has that's okay. So it has a 12-hour indicator. How often do you have a live show when you swap across to the next watch and it's another bloody Lange? It's so funny. So we got 30 minutes there, running seconds. Something to admire. Something really to take in. How is it that this show is not 4 hours long? It's just been over 3 hours and we're coming to the end. We've literally got Russell's pieces to go through and the show's done. It's amazing. It's been an efficient show, to say the least. I don't know how we did it. Love it. Now, what I'm wanting to know, if any of the technic geeks out there could maybe tell me, is this pusher, does this have to do with the triple split? Immediately when I see that pusher, I think it's for the big date, but this doesn't have a big date, so bit of an issue. White gold Odysseus is gorgeous. Mason, you are so right. If I had a choice of getting a Lange right now, I think I would be going for that. The white gold variant is just, I know that there's some diehards for the steel. Russell has one, but I think what they've done with that slate gray dial and the fluting inside it and the rubber strap integration and all of that, it just speaks more to a Lange, as a Lange for me personally. Yeah, I agree with you, Mason. It doesn't look like it, but the pick, but it's so thick. It's really like 15 mils or something daft. I mean, to get that complication going, a triple split time, it's just so. I love the fact that we go from one to the next. Now we're going to, it's a retro punt. Okay, thank you for that, Russell. Russell knows this stuff well. Best watch chat on YouTube by far. R&W, got to say, you come for the watches, stay for the chat. The banter is always gold, regardless. Split my pants, Justin says. Beautiful. Okay, let's go on next. So I just swipe across, and the next piece we see is the Datograph Lumen. Okay, so we're capping off the show with a couple of serious heavy hitters. And I just said to Russell, I think yesterday, I said, we're doing a show about dress watches. What have you got? And he sent in a nice handful, including his beautiful 1815 that we saw earlier, at the beginning of the show. So the Datograph Lumen, we've chatted many, many times. Oh, this is at BS. Asking the question, would the straps fit the steel Odysseus? Very good point. Russell actually myth-busted something. The first generation Odysseus models had openings to remove straps, and he's done it. He's actually swapped out straps with it before. But the latest models don't. They've actually sealed up the holes. I don't know how you get the straps off the watch, or if it's actually, if the bracelet is now integral into the case. Someone can maybe correct me, but I think Russell pointed that out to me the other day. They have removed the option to take straps off for the Odysseus as of now, which is just so strange. And Turbo says the white gold Odysseus in person on the wrist is incredible. The dial's just gorgeous. I love it. The combination of colors, to me, it's such a versatile watch, even more versatile than the stainless steel. It's just great. It just feels so right in my book. Tbedev, power reserve. What does AB and AF translate to? Up, down. I think UB is, hold on, I'm going to try to get this right. Auf. I think Auf is up and UB is down. So, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong there. So, Auf, up. And that's why you call it an up-down. So technically, this is the Datograph Lumen, but it's also an up-down because it has a designator there. So you call it a Datograph up-down Lumen. Yeah, it just gets quite technical. But of course, this being the one that glows in the dark, we've chatted about this many times before. There's lots to take in. First 200 stainless steel pieces have removable bracelet. So there we go. Russell sums it up. Now you can't actually do it. I mean, how sad is that? You get the watch all excited, and then you're like, hey, I can't remove the bracelet on this thing. Alf is up. Okay, thank you, Urin. That helps. Did I guess that right? Awesome piece. I mean, how many times have we chatted about this? The fact that he's been able to get this in the sun, we can see through the movement. It's not for everyone. It's a skeletonized watch, essentially, but the beauty is that it all glows in the dark, and you see all the funkiness when it works. And this pusher is used to adjust the date, of course. Yeah, there's lots to take in. Also, I think what makes this watch so great, the Datograph, is the size. 39 mils is just spot on. It fits so nicely. Okay, we're not done yet. Phantom, let's have a look at the Zeitwerk. that many lust after, and this being one of the hardest to get in this category that also glows in the dark. Russell loves his outliers. And we're not done. We're going to have a look at an awesome Ulysse Nardin at a second, and a Cloisonné to cap off the show. There's a handful of things to look at to finish. It's just amazing. We've actually, for the first time ever, the theme of the show has worked with the watches that we are seeing, and it's been a lot of fun. I wanted to mix up the formula a bit. Chatting about dress watches, we never do. We never dedicate shows to specific pieces, and I think more than ever we focus on sports watches, where there's just so much to enjoy in the dress watch space. But again, you guys took it very literally with the pieces that you sent in. Instead of like mixing it up with a sports watch on leather, you decided just to throw it in the serious heavy hitter pieces. Really cool. I mean, the Zeitwerk, it gives you this impression of being a classical piece, but also has a modern flair to it. That's the clincher. We're not done yet, though. There's more. We're going to jump to the 5212, which is also a great outlier. I do love the fact that Russell's collecting focuses primarily on the outlier pieces that are just, I call this the Mayan calendar. Love a good Mayan calendar watch. Hand script. The only thing that turns me off is the fact that the date is not working with all the extra hands. But there's lots to take in. I mean, it has a stepped case, which is very true to like 1930s aesthetics. There's lots of factors. And we jump to Mason's comment for a second. Let me get this better centered. Excuse the magic mouse twitching around. There we go. So Mason says, I love Lange, but I have no desire for the phantom pieces, prefer regular dials. Yeah, they are most definitely outliers. I don't even think you could find them actually today. They're all sold out. I only think they made, like 100 pieces, probably less. Zeitwerk Fat Boy in the t-shirt. It's a cool watch. It's definitely, I mean, you've seen them in rose gold and just presented as they are big. They're like 42 mils on the wrist. So they aren't the smallest things to wear, but if you can pull them off, they're good. Such a weird watch, but the font on the watch is just peachy. It's fun, right? It is fun. The fact that it's based on a hand script and it's all been done separately, it's funky. Only Patek could pull this off. Lots of nice things to take in. And remember, it's a Calatrava, which is also something nice. It's not your typical arrangement. Can you believe how many Calatravas we've seen in one show? The only one we've missed is the 5107 and all of those examples. Phantom 100, Lumen 200. Okay, thanks for that, Russell. Okay, and we're not done. What's another example? Let's look at another crazy outlier, which is the 6000 and... It's 6007, right? This done to commemorate the launch of a new store, I think. I can never get the specs right, but the color, it's definitely not for everyone. Again, very roulette wheel based, similar to the 5212 and the obscurity factor. So Forbin says it would be fun to hand letter a dial. Yeah. I wonder what material would be hobbyist friendly to write on. Ugh. Difficult, eh? Very difficult. Fine liner wouldn't work. It's there's lots of little facets for sure. The thing is, though, this is not actually hand applied. I mean, if we jump back, the reason you can tell this is something, maybe graphic designers will be able to attest. Most of the, actually, you know what? For a second, I was thinking to myself that all of these elements have been, I'm looking at the A. You see that the A has a little extended element here and the A is not extended here. The Y is different. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. This looks individually set, like the scripting was done separately and then printed on. Okay, I'm surprised. I actually thought for a second that every letter was the same. It was just a handwritten script, but in fact, I think it is different. I mean, the 3 is different in size. The top is different, and that's okay. Okay, I'm learning something new here. This is fun. So what happened was, I'm guessing the creator just individually wrote out all of these parts, and the prints just matched all of the little inaccuracies. I mean, this A has 2 dots on either side. Okay, this is something. 53 weeks. Yeah, isn't that a misnomer? Aren't they 52 weeks in a year? That's something James Conn. I don't know if that's good. Thickness varies. Okay, I need to catch up with the chat. It's a really funky watch. I would totally wear one of these things. I love the fact that it's just, for anyone out there, no one would know what this piece is, and that's the real beauty. Back to the 6007, as I catch up in the chat. Let's see, PP sector dial. I like that. It's cool. New manufacturer. Not sure if it's enough. Not sure there's enough on the dial. No, Hans, you're right. It's very plain, very simple for what it is. It was an original original drawing of the dial. They loved it and reproduced it. Got it. I think it is handwritten. So it is an original handwritten script. Russell summed it up nicely there. Thanks for that. Printed or not, it's utterly charming. It is. It's so different. I mean, today we see so much on watches that are just, for the sake of it, they're just so clean and perfect. It's good to see stuff that has a little bit of wiggle room in places and doesn't look like any other. And then dealing with this, the roulette dial and all the rest there, it's pretty ideal. When you talk about a dress watch, pretty ideal for a daily wearing piece. I love how the numerals rotate around the dial very cleanly. The hands, the obelisk hands are fantastic. The white accents work very well. It's legible. Has a field watch style to it. And Thomas says, don't like the checkered inner dial. What does that remind? That reminds you of sound deadening, hey? You know, the foam that you put on your walls to sound deaden a room. Also flooring. I think flooring has this texture. You can get special steel cutouts for flooring that look like this. This is definitely one of the most contentious points attached to this watch, is that inset element. But of course, for collectors, it's blue, it's steel, it's Patek. So yeah, that's always going to retain its value, and more interest is going to go up over the years. They only made like 100 of them. Steel flooring, that's it, Russell. I don't know if that was the inspiration, but still, it's cool. It does have this field watch vibe to it too, which I like. It's so nice seeing the numerals rotate. That white date window, though, Patek. They're waking up to it, though. They are addressing it a bit differently. Parquet is interesting. Parquet flooring. Thank you. So they made 1,000 of these pieces. That's good to know. Thunderclapper and Russell. Okay, next up, I'm going to save the 5370 for last, maybe. Let's have a look at a Ulysse Nardin. This is a great piece. I love this story. I can't remember the anniversary date off the top of my head. It's also 175 years or something daft. But it's an enamel dial, I think. It's based on the marine chronometers from back in the day. Russell was a big UN collector in the beginning. And here we have blued hands. You have all the elements that you like. Also, up, down. I love this. So 3/4, half, 1/4. That's really nice. Power reserve must be insane on this. 1846 it's basically to commemorate the manufacture date, the original date of this brand's beginning. And of course, they cut their chops when it came to marine chronometers. So this is the piece basically made to commemorate it. Funny enough, we actually featured a proper Oricast marine chronometer during the show. 150 years, yeah. Unusual hands, true to form for the marine chronometer. Let me go back and find it quick since we have time. Trying to see if I can find it quick. Hold on. Oricast. Let's see. Where did it go? This is a crazy thing. Every single week, every time we do these shows, it's like a dictionary of stuff to search through. I can't find it. Where did it go? There it is. There is a true marine chronometer from the 50s. You notice the handset is pretty accurate to that era, where they're that like semi-spade, semi-sword style, lots of things to take in. And the marine chronometer is an important gadget, to say the least. Going back, oh, it's so cool, man. Really charming arrangement. And I don't know if it is an enamel dial. I would imagine it is. I mean, this is seriously high up there. Amazing power reserve and all of that too. It's great. I love the fact that throughout Russell's collecting, he does really enjoy the outliers in these zones, and it's good to share. Blue Shirt is back. Welcome back, Blue Shirt. We're about to close off. It's been a fun chat. Surprisingly, all about dress watches this time around. How was dinner? Exactly. How was your dinner? And then let's carry on. So what should we do? The cloisonne, or do we want to do let's stick to chronographs and just, come back. This thing is just, you can't really say it in a few words. It's stunning. 5370, I believe, right? That is the reference. I can never get it right. We've chatted about this watch so many times. We've featured it hundreds of times. This looks like the strap off the 6007. It is. Yeah, Russell's quite the strap guy. He loves swapping out his things. That looks good on this. I mean, anything. 5370, great. Anything works on this watch. There's just so much to take in here. We talk about the holy grail of dress watches. There's not much that really comes close to this piece, all things considered. When it comes to eliminating all the watches in your collection, when it comes to like eliminating chronographs in general, this is the piece that just does it all. Ah, it's too much to take. Blue shirt, welcome back. Time for whiskey. Good point. I've been skimping on it. Might as well, since we're capping off the show. Just for anyone else joining, I am sipping on Tamavulan this week. It's a sherry cask. It's about 8 years old. Always love sherry. And being a Speyside single malt, generally sweet, vanilla, toffee tones. It's great. Really nice. Okay, jumping back. Getting quite proficient with this setup. Just drink it in. This watch is something else. Really amazing. It's hard to, I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke here. It's really one of those pieces that you can look at and say, is there anything else out there to compete with something like this? Petrol. It is pretty strong, Eric, I'll admit. Eric knows his whiskeys well. It is pretty strong. It's still smooth enough to drink, but okay, down the hole it goes. Big mouthful. Smooth enough. Oh, there's so much to enjoy here. Rail track, the leaf hands that are actually loomed, so you can enjoy that. Captain, my captain, for sure. Yeah, Russell, I really appreciate it, man. I mean, he goes out of his way. It's pouring rain on a Friday, and he sends wrist shots of his 1815. We'll actually finish off the show on his 1815 one more time. But before that, we have to get one of the grails of dress watches in this category too, and it's the Cloisonne World Time. Took him, 8 years to wait for this watch to be made. It's just crazy. I mean, I can't wait for the day when we can actually meet up and chat about these pieces, because the selection you have it's insane. There's too much to take in. So this being the rose gold variant, and I think I've said this like 100 times before, but the color, depending on the color of the watch, so the Cloisonne changes. So for this example, you have Australia, you have the East, and you have North and South America, where I think the yellow gold variant, you have Africa in the middle and more of Europe. Just superb. And of course, there's no space on the dial to actually give the name, so they engraved Patek Philippe on the bezel. It's just crazy. How do you even talk about this? Technically, we've been chatting about the 5107, those deco-styled lugs and crown guard that run around it, true to form. It's just so cool, man. I mean, where do you go from here? And Thomas mentioning, love the dial, numerals, sub-dial symmetry. There's, yeah, right, and more. There's just too much. It's like, I mean, look, when I look at let's just go back to the good old Big Eye. This is what this watch is trying to do in a sense. It's got that dress form to it. It's a field watch in many ways, has a similar arrangement, but it just doesn't have that elegance that the Patek has at all. The elegance of the numerals, the way everything's applied. Not talking about price and everything. I'm talking more about just the visual aesthetic of the piece. This thing just so much to enjoy, and it has an enamel dial, which is even more amazing. Yeah. So Cloisonne, I think that is his avatar, as asked by BS. Yes. Okay. So as we have start singing now, Eric says, as we are finishing off the show, it's just been almost 3.5 hours. I would like to close off by looking once more at the piece that he sent in that became the cover photo, and that is his latest pickup of the 1815 Thin, which I do believe to be one of the most excellent, I think, of all the Langes that we've seen, the most excellent like execution when it comes to what a dress watch should be represented as. You've got Arabic numerals, no seconds hand, beautiful sword hands. Just the numeral and typeface arrangement itself is great. There's no clutter on the dial. Short show. Yeah, Justin, you're right. You're right. Only 3.5 hours instead of the usual 4 hours. Yeah, it's been a good time. Really, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. For all of you who have sent in your pieces, I cannot thank you enough. Such a fun experience. All of these shows are a blast. As of next weekend, of course, Watch Talk with the Punters will be having their show. I'll be able to take a break and listen in, which is fantastic. I love that. And for all you guys out there, I hope you're having a great weekend. Again, thank you, Koji, for the super chat. Wow, Thank you so much. And everyone else for being here, sitting throughout the talk. It's always good. The banter is always amazing. And I can't believe dress watches have been the theme and we've stuck to it somehow. Made in Germany should be in German, not English. BDev, that is such a good point. I wonder why they did that. That is such a good point. Because, I mean, everything's about glasuter on the case back and everything there. So why is it that they haven't? Oh, it's on the front as well. Do they even need to put made in Germany on the dial? I ask that question. Take that in for a second. When it says glasuter, that sums it up immediately. There is no need for them to highlight that it's made in Germany then, right? And that goes against some of the restraint that this watch is trying to uphold. Cool. I get drawn to the 1815 collection quite a lot because of the gorgeous numerals. That's me too, Mason. Fully agree. Russell, thank you for the super chat, and you sending these watches to me at like 6 in the evening in the pouring rain. You went to town trying to get good shots of this watch. It's just awesome. They always put it in. Yeah, it's funny though when you think about, like, especially this watch wanting to be as clean as possible. Very good point. And yeah, Eric's saying, gents lost the war, they should have. But hey, they put up a good fight. I could say that much. Okay, I'm going to close off the show. It's been a hell of a blast. I've really enjoyed this. It's always nice to take a bit of a breather in between shows. How do I stop the screen share? I always forget. There we go. It's always nice taking a break between shows so you can recharge the batteries, get the brain back in to the game. Yeah, I'm just so humbled seeing what we had this time around. As far as dress watches go, this sums it up. And I don't even think we covered the theme of what is your definition of the dress watch. But if anyone is willing, after the show, in the comments of this video, I'd love to know your thoughts about what your definition of the watch. Just read the title of the video; it sums it up. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a blast. I love these talks. Please look after yourselves this week. And Ta's saying, I'm very disappointed, didn't hear the squeaky chair. Well, it's noisy enough at times, but it has its moments. I think I'm going to do some surgery on it this week, actually. It's a good idea. Ladies and gents, thank you so much. As always, have a superb Sunday. I hope the weather, as of the Northern Hemisphere, I'm sure the weather is improving for a lot of us. In the UK, it seems like from Wednesday onwards, we're getting like 36-degree heat waves, which is great. Spend a lot of time outside. Keep enjoying your hobbies. It doesn't just have to be watches. The beauty of this hobby of ours is that it's eternal. You can always come back to, but there's lots of other hobbies out there to keep our brains occupied. And now that the world's opening up, we can get to traveling again, seeing each other again. It's a joy. And happy Father's Day, technically, right? We've just ticked over. Yeah. Justin, thank you so much. The rest of you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. As always, see you in 2 weeks for Watch Report. Keep your eye on the channel over the next week or so because there's lots of content coming out. 2 videos next week, a Longines Big Eye review the week after. Watch Report will be happening the next weekend, I think. And yeah, it's going to be good. Thanks for that. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Again, as always, take care of yourselves. See you soon.